every.
All right, so we're recording now and we're live with the meeting. Thank you.
Yep. I've been asked by my assistant to remind everyone that if you're not speaking, please try to be quiet. The owl picks up stray noises, and that makes for a bad recording. And seeing as this is something that has to be recorded. Okay. Listers and KRT, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give? Oh, did you want to call? I'm sorry. Did you want to call the meeting? We've done so many of these.
So call to order a little early.
Want to go?
Depends on who you ask. So. That the oaths, you need the listed oath?
Yeah, the lister's oath and the witness oath is,
Yep.
do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give relative to the cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Nice. Thank you.
The name of the appellant, the property location and the parcel ID.
Most of you will know this building as Baskerville. Legally, it's owned by Sanford and Darden LLC. It's 8 Bells Falls Road. Parcel ID 305101. The current assessment. Well, that will come from the lister, right? And I just want to make a little point because the way that this case got to the BCA was a little bit unusual, and I want to share that with the BCA. The result of grievances were issued on August 8th, and there was a certificate of mailing, which made the appeal date Thursday, August 22nd. There was an appeal sent to the listers by email on the 23rd. And when we started discussing why the appeal was untimely, the response was, well, we never got notice. Well, it was mailed. And the reason that they didn't get notice is because the address that they gave the listers was not actually their mailing address. It was the street address of the property. We ran this by Larry Slayson, who was the attorney for the town. And he indicated that we should allow the appeal to go forward, even though arguably it was untimely.
Thank you. I'm asking the appellant if you have received a copy of the rules of procedure.
Yeah,
Do you have any questions about them?
we do not.
Thank you. BCA members, do you have any conflicts of interest or target communication to disclose? No. Listers, please introduce the property on appeal by describing the property and its present valuation.
This is a 3.3 acre parcel classified as commercial office warehouse building. Built around the original part in 1956, having primarily average exterior of, it's a 22,762 square foot building with 3 commercial units. Current assessment is $1,457,200.
Do you mind repeating that, please? Thank you.
$1,457,200. And you need the square footage also? No.
22,762.
22,762.
Then, thank you. Appellant, please present your evaluation and supporting evidence.
Thank you. I am going to turn it over to Mr. Buckley here, who is an appraiser, who prepared the appraisal that I think it's been distributed to.
What I sent out, but
He has come up with an appraised value of $690,000. And I'd like him to discuss how he reached that number.
So in the appraisal process, the essential second step after inspecting the property is to seek comparable data that's timely to the inspection date, which reflects sales of similar properties. This is a commercial property. It's a commercial property that we found highest and best use would be an office use and with multiple tenants. And we did a search in southeast Vermont, here in Wyndham County. Basically a 25 or 35 mile radius of known commercial sales listed on MLS with details about the property, pictures of the properties, and gross income and net income information that they were willing to share publicly on MLS. After gathering that information, we were looking for in two different directions. We wanted to do a comparative sales grid of the most similar properties. We also wanted to acknowledge that these kinds of properties have value function of income. If they don't produce income, their highest and best use is not achieved, and the valuation is really in trouble. I mean, if they're a 22,000 square foot building, it can't sit empty and have value. So the report towards the tail end summarizes the public, I should say public, the information available on MLS, and the vendor claims they have MLS available to them, so they have the same source of data that I do. Revealed, I have to look at the report, but it's not really relevant. There's several sales that show a cap rate. And wonder of all wonders, if you have gross income, you have net income, you have a sale price, you're fortunate because you can see if there's any regularity in the relationship of net income and value. And indeed there is, and the report summarizes that, and it uses that in an income approach. And we also summarize the income and expenses associated with this property to derive a suggested value by capitalizing the income. In addition to that, we looked at three properties that we thought were most similar. One was a predominant office building in Bethel, newer, functionally constructed to be an office building that sold. There was another sale in Brattleboro of a shopping center, mixed use in West Brattleboro, which reflected the lower side of value. It was sort of, you know, the process is one of bracketing. You want to find something that might be a little bit better, might be a little not quite as good, and then see if by making substantive judgments for why they're better or why they're not, narrow that bracket and thereby be able to come up with what a suggested value. And quickly go to that grid. So I mentioned the one in Bethel, I mentioned the one in West Brattleboro, and then there's a listing in on River Street in Springfield, which is particularly relevant because I talked to the broker on this one. It's fully leased up. It has a cash flow. And it's listed for sale on the strip out of Springfield to North Springfield. That's their newer commercial strip out of the main village. And it was on the market for 585 days at $850. And it with the income that they they were able to share, it reflected a cap rate which would push a higher number. That was outside of the range that the market was showing. The market showed a clear range of cap, I mean, in fact, a really good range of cap rates in the 11 to 12% range. This one, based on it being a listing,
Inheriting a
that's,
field.
it didn't sell, was down around 10%. So that would suggest that the 815 asking price that was on the market for 585 days was too high. Good comp, good comp, because it tells us where that upper threshold ought to be for a property like this. And I, you know, as I drive around and I look at properties that are for lease or properties that have recently sold, I think you have to put it in context. This no longer has a commercial value or a retail value. This dropped out of that retail value into one of rental. And I mean, there, we all can sort of get our arms around who's there. You've got a worn out winery, hopefully they'll be there, you know, and continue to pay rent, but if not, you've got a vacancy problem. And then you've got it's a school, like, I can't quite remember the name. Oh, but they don't actually have any schooling in the building.
They sell books for other private schools, I think.
Yeah, okay, so,
Curriculums.
Homeschoolers.
Yeah.
so hopefully that's a viable use. It's, you know, it's sort of specific use. But as the owner of that property, you have to rely on earnings going forward. Generally, a 10-year period is considered your recapture or when you decide to do things, either sell or to refinance or whatever you want to do. And then upstairs in this building, above Oak Meadow, is a very unhandicapped accessible stairway to a mezzanine. It has no function. I mean, I suppose we could say it has that, but functionally, it has no function. And then where the other secondary space is the space that Basketville consolidated into, you know, when they shut the business down to this level. Those spaces are accessed probably illegally on the side. They're escape doors. And it's not handicapped accessible. So they use that space. It works for them because they still they're conducting business there and it's attractive. They have 2,500 square feet that they're not using, that they've been trying to lease for some time, and they haven't had any takers. And you know, the person who uses that 2,500 square feet second floor area is going to be asking whoever they interact with it to walk up the side of the building on fire stairways. And you know, it's not ideal. They made that building work from what it was originally intended for. It was originally intended for retail sales. And during the day, I think Basketville had 12 or 15 outlets. It was a very successful company. It was in the retail business. Well, the retail business is gone. Manchester discount stores are vacant. The ones up and around Queensbury, Saratoga area, they're dying. They depended upon hordes of people coming on weekends and enjoying the shopping experience. People aren't doing that anymore. So we fall into a secondary use on this building, and I think the income projections that we've used and the relationship of income to value is an accurate indicator of the value of the property. I would hope, and I want to stress this to BCA, I would hope the vendor went to the same sort of degree of analysis in coming up with a value for this property. Because the idea that you can tell us what it would cost to build it for a use that was not specific to what is being used now, and that somehow you can deduct depreciation out of the air without modeling it on sales of properties that are income producing properties, of commercial but income producing, is preposterous. You have to model. If you want to say you're gonna use a cost approach, you have to use something out of the marketplace that checks your numbers, because otherwise your numbers are just made up. So that would be my delivery on this one. Questions?
When you say vendor, are you referring to these guys over here?
I don't know, nobody introduced themselves, so I'm KRT, whoever did the reappraisal.
We did not introduce
I'm
ourselves.
sorry
about that. We forgot that part.
Yeah,
I forgot that.
I haven't met them. But yes, you would hope that there was something beyond just a Marshall and Swift cost new, less appreciating land value, because that's not gonna work.
Well, let us remedy my omission, starting with Alan.
I'm Alan Blood, I'm on the BCA.
And Adam Jacobson, also
Nice to meet
BCA.
you.
Wendy Wilson, BCA.
Nice to meet you.
Nancy Olson, we already met.
Me too.
Eileen Shute, I'm on the select board and also BCA.
Amelia James Struthers, BCA.
Nice to meet you.
Paul Reagan, KRT appraisal. Appraisal. Doug Harlow, Lister.
Jordy Heller, Lister.
Then I introduced myself, Jonathan Johnson, Putney, Partners.
And there's one more person here I haven't met.
Adam Wade from Casella, change entry attorney for Sanford Attorney today.
Are we asking questions now, or are we going to the listers first?
Listers next. And then questions, and then I decide.
So this 50-page thing that you put together, we received Monday after these guys were already here for a Monday hearing, and they have not had time to begin to look at it, so we're not prepared to speak to the pieces in the reappraisal report. It takes more than a few hours to go through. Is there anything, Kevin, that you want to add to that?
It takes more than 48 hours to digest the report and do the research, so we just haven't had time to prepare.
Okay.
I have some questions.
I mean,
I noticed that you have, one comparable that has not sold yet. And you have 1, 2, 3 that sold after April 1st. And I'm wondering why you didn't use more that were before April 1st, since this is supposed to be as appraisal as of April 1st.
That's a good question. In appraisal methodology, you want data as close to the specific date that you're trying to mark value on. And a sale a week after that date is just as valid as a sale a week before. It's valid market data.
Okay, so is it more accurate to say that this appraisal was as of the date that you wrote it rather than April
No,
1st?
absolutely not. It
And
was
can you
as
explain
of
why?
April 1st.
Okay. Can you explain how you came up with the net income for these properties?
We asked the owners to supply us that information.
Is that information you can supply us?
It's in the report. Are you talking about basket?
I'm talking about the breakdown of the comparables. If you have net.
They're
income
on
for the
individual
comparables.
MLS sheets. We can make those available to you.
Okay, so you don't have the breakdown.
I don't have the MLS sheets. I have a summary of what's on those MLS sheets.
Okay,
KRT has access to MLS as well.
Yeah.
So they have the same data availability that I do.
sure. I was just wondering about the breakdown, and what was included. For instance, was property tax included in that net income or not? Do you know?
I only have available to me the data that was on the MLS sheets.
Okay, that's fine. I also wanted to know why, on the rental income piece, why the second floor vacant office space is listed at $750, which I assume is the market, how you came up with the market rent.
Oh, and
But
we asked,
But
the,
then, I'm sorry,
Right.
my question's not done.
yeah.
But then for vacancy rate, it's at $850. Can you explain that?
Excuse me?
for the vacancy rate, which is I assume the vacant office space, same square footage. The price per square foot is $850 rather than $750. Can you explain that?
We're on page 30.
I'm on page 38.
That's what my question is.
Actually, the best way to answer your question on that is that a vacancy rate is a moving target. That's a subjective judgment that should be applied to any income and expense analysis. And it's traditional in appraisal methodology to always allow a vacancy rate off the gross income to anticipate a period of time where you might have a vacancy.
Okay.
So whether it's 5% or 7% doesn't affect it that much.
Okay, can you explain where you got the market rate from? Where did you derive the market rate?
From the
Market rent?
from the MLS data that I saw this year, you know.
And then this one is really confusing to me. So at the, page 40, so as I understand it, you would take the, total, net income rate, and then the net, operating income, and then you would, divide it by your cap rate. But the number that you have here is 75,170. Can you explain where you got that number? Because it doesn't equal the number.
You're right, that's a float with the vacancy rate,
That's a
in
float.
between two numbers.
Okay.
There was one higher and there was one lower.
Okay, all right, I think that was all my questions, so for now.
Other questions, Alan?
I don't know who I'm asking this question to, but I'm wondering if we know when this property was last sold and what the value, what the sale price was at that point.
When it transferred from Baskerville to Sanford and Garden.
That's my assumption, but
Is that a valid sale?
It would not be a valid sale, and I'm not certain.
Because Sanford and Darden, they're the children of the owners of Baskerville.
So I'm
so
not.
it's irrelevant.
Right.
Because it might not be the real value.
It was a family.
Yeah,
We know what year that was?
I think it predates me, so it's more than 8 years ago.
I'm sorry, I had one more question before I forget. Wait a
I
minute,
could look.
what was that?
I could go look and see what year.
I don't think it matters if it's not
I
a.
don't think
It's not a valid sale.
Yeah, it was not an art.
But yeah, it wouldn't be really relevant. Yes. In general, this is a question for KRT, in general, what was your methodology for valuing commercial properties?
Well, typically, we would send out income and expense statements to all the commercial industrial property owners, but because there's so few commercial properties here, you wouldn't be able to get enough data to build income, expense, and vacancy rates for such a small sample of data, so. I mean, we do go on CoStar. CoStar is a, national service, so we would have been reviewing the leases in the Brattleboro area. And, but also you have to use the cost approach as well. So.
Wendy,
Yeah, so my question was about the highest and best use being office space. When was that decided? Was that decided at the time of the transfer? When Baskerville closed, or was that decided this year?
No, that's actually a highly functional determination. And that speaks to what is as feasible, probable, and legal at the time of the appraisal and likely. And those elements, and that's the right place to start, by the way.
Okay,
Because you have to say, what is it good for? And that's the highest and best.
well,
use.
I'm just confused because then you proceeded to say how bad office spaces do.
No, I was saying retail,
Oh,
retail,
retail.
yeah.
Okay.
And it was originally designed for that. It was built for that. And that's not currently a viable
Okay.
use.
Yes, Alan.
I think this is primarily a question for the listers or KRT. Do we have, I understand that you did some comparables online, at least, is that right? You looked at other buildings in the area that you thought were somewhat similar. And that's partially how you valued this building, is that right?
Yeah, we did research on CoStar.
Yeah.
So,
And can, when we, a couple weeks ago, when I was at one of these meetings, you shared some of those comparables with us. Can you do that today or not?
no, we haven't, we just got the report like Tuesday. So it's 48 pages, we have to do research.
So what you're requesting is that we continue this hearing. and
Well,
come back.
we just got the report.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be
Yeah.
antagonistic.
No.
What you're requesting is that we schedule another time to come back in and allow you to, and how much time do you think you would need to
It
do
would be in
that?
the best interest of the town to do that.
Okay, and how much time do you think you would need to do that?
I guess we could have something on the 21st.
By the 21st? Mr. Wade, I will confer with your office. Our next meeting is on Monday, the 21st at 4. So let's, if you could check your schedule and let me know whether we could add you onto that day.
Sure.
That hearing is primarily to receive inspection reports of ones that we've already heard. But it's in everybody's best interest to get this moving forward. So if you're free on the 21st, I would recommend that we add that to hearing the inspection reports on the 21st.
So we'll recess this hearing until that time.
Yes. But that raises an interesting question, and I'm gonna leave it up to the board and Sanford and Darden. Would it be in anybody's best interest to conduct, as you're aware, under the tax appeals, we have to appoint an inspection committee? Would it be your preference that the inspection committee comes before or after the 21st?
Like to keep that, yes.
Okay, after, okay. And that kind of makes sense to me, because once we hear the inspection committee would benefit from hearing from the listers to say, hey, look at these 12 things while you're out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense to me.
Would both of you be coming back to that meeting, do you think?
Yes.
So we would still have a chance to speak to both of you then?
Yes.
So, recessing the hearing until the 21st and also postponing the appointment of an inspection committee until that time. Okay.
So I take it we're not going to hear anything about the appraisal that was performed.
It sounds like the
This-
listers, they're not
not
prepared,
prepared.
that's why we're.
They've already done it.
No, the one that they did.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm just confused why they needed to see how we're able to.
The process typically is we present what we have and you present what you have, and in our chance to respond to you, we would need your report. Kevin did give you some information on how they arrived at these numbers.
Well,
And that's,
we said we would provide it 5 days before the hearing. There was no objection to that.
and
Yeah.
we were not prepared for 50 pages that they would need to go through in that kind of detail.
It's typical for an appraisal. Just don't understand. I mean, they prepared the evaluation, so they must know how they did that, right?
I think that's what they said.
We have the manual, we turn the manual over to the town, so.
We have the manual. If you would like to look at how they conducted their reappraisal, you can. I have a copy in my office. You're welcome to come and look at it. We're open.
But not prepared to actually discuss how they calculated the number.
Not tonight.
I just want to make a comment.
What's that? What's the question?
From my point of view, as a BCA member who just got the report yesterday, I don't think it makes sense to spend time listening to the lister's original evaluation on it, because we haven't had a chance to read through the report, and I would rather hear their conversation about it after I've had time to read it and figure the whole piece out. It just seems to not make sense to me to spend the time now when we'll have to wait for another week or so before we hear again.
With all due respect, we came to this meeting prepared to provide the methodology and the methods used. They have come to this meeting refusing to provide anything except manuals in the office. I think that's highly unusual. They're professionals. They should be able to tell you something about how they came up with that number, and frankly, they're refusing to tell you anything. So I find that highly unusual.
I don't agree. I think that I heard enough of what their process was.
They just gave you a number.
I heard more than a number.
Okay, I don't know what the process is.
So
Let's,
I mean, yeah, I think it's fair that both sides have, the time that they need to prepare, and I also just received this last night. Whether that was, whether you gave it to us on Monday or whatever, it came to us late. So I think it's fair to continue the meeting.
thank you.
Thank you.
You want to do yours first or second? Let's just start. Yeah. You have to do. Thank you for being so patient. Stephen first, you're.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay. Are you
This
ready?
video,
Yes. Mr. Muller. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give relative to the cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
And we're gonna apply that to your house as well.
Yes.
Mr. Bowen has two cases. The first one is he's serving as the attorney for Stetson Enterprises, which owns land at it's 646 Bellows Falls Road, parcel ID 080125. You'll know this as the open field across from Santa's land on Route 5, where the new house is going in.
all right.
Oh, okay. That one. It's not-
The one that looks almost done, it's not, it's
Well,
no. It's actually on the.
And here's the situation. As everyone knows, tax values are assessed on April 1 of the tax year. On April 1 of the tax year, where the house is going, it had not been sold. So the house that's going in, you may have noticed going north on Route 5, was started after April 1. So what we're looking at is 25.2 acres, something like that. 24.4 acres. to be honest.
So just going back to the question of it not being there on April 1st. The standard thing to do is to assess it when it's finished, is that?
Oh, I'm not here for that property, Ellen.
I see.
That property was bought by, Carol Curtis
It was 3 acres. It was subdivided off of Stetson's property, which I think was accurately stated as somewhere around 25.81 acres according to the Act 250 permit. So right now, with the house being sold in September, I think, or the property being sold in September and the house being constructed, Stetson's property is dropped by 3 acres to 22 acres. But as correctly pointed out by the town clerk, this year is being assessed without the house and with including the 3 acres that Stetson had before they sold it. That means that we have to do a proration between Kara Curtis and Stetson with respect to just the 3 acres, because the house has not been included in this assessment.
You mean when you
Is
sell,
that clear?
when it's sold, or,
What did it sell for?
I'm confused, I'm sorry.
Okay. They had 25 acres, Stetson, when they sold, well, let me just explain who Stetson is. Stetson is Tim Wells, who is an attorney in Westminster. He recently passed away. I'm representing his estate. The LLC was solely owned by him, therefore, the LLC is in his estate, and therefore I'm here representing Stetson. Stetson owned 25 acres that they kept after they sold Santa's land on the north side of Route 5. The land that they kept was on the south side of Route 5, extending over to Route 91. Now, I know I presented some materials before when we did the grievance, but I do have this other map to show everyone at some point so you can see. There was a significant study being done by under the Act 250 land use permit, which was required in order for Tim to take out the 3 acres to sell to Kara Curtis. That's the best land that fronts Route 5. There's a little bit of land that goes all the way out to his daughter, Sarah Ballou's house, which I think she also grieved, because what I found was that it said there was no tax bill for this property last year. And I couldn't understand that because I think Sarah had her property for, I don't know how long, but Tim had sold his daughter the property out of Stetson. So it's now in his daughter's hands. And so the previous tax bill included her house and all this land, all right? So now we're at a point where the town, the listers have taken out Kara's property and gave her a separate bill this year for her property and her homestead. They also then did a separate bill for the 25 acres that Stetson has between 91 and US Route 5.
21?
21 or?
90, the highway, 91.
I mean, you said the amount of acres was 25, I thought that was the original amount, and that was 21?
No, that, I think it must have been more. I don't know what the previous acres was, because I don't have the previous tax.
So much
bill.
going on right now, I'm so confused. So at some
That's a
point,
good question.
at some point, the listers were supposed to introduce the property.
Okay, let's start.
So let's go back to there.
Great.
Okay.
So, on April 1st, it was 24.4 acres of land on the grand list, classified as miscellaneous, which is open land. The small piece with the house that Sarah had bought is not included in this. The piece that Kara Curtis bought is included in this because that sale happened after April 1st. So it is 24.4 acres of open land. $217,000 is the assessment, and that takes into account the restrictions from Act 250 and stuff that were came to grievance.
217 what? Even?
217 even.
That was Sarah's.
No, that's Stetson.
That's this, yeah.
That's the 24 acres.
Yeah, I guess what I'm seeing here on the Putney property database is that the land with Sarah was 2 acres, right?
Yeah, that happened last year, so that's
Right.
not.
And then it showed on that tax bill 23.81 acres attached on the same bill as the 2 acres. And the two together came to 315 $23,200.
And this is a tax bill from a year ago.
Yes, correct.
That would be
So
correct.
that would mean that when you take her 2 acres out, we have 23.81 acres. I was saying 25 only because I think that the state included Sarah's land in their map.
And I have on here 24.4, which I pulled off of here, and it's possible that there's
Okay.
data
Okay.
confusion in there somewhere, an acre or
But we're
something.
basically looking at 24 acres.
Correct.
That's good, okay. So going back to that previous bill, which was issued, that included the house and all of the Stetson land. That bill was for the total assessed value was $315,200. Okay, now you break that out as to the house site, and that was, the homestead was $315,200. And the remaining $172,000 was for house site. So if you take out if you look at what I perceive the land value in that bill to be, I figured it at $143,200
Of which one?
And
outside of the 2 acres.
Can
Can
I,
we explain this
I'm a
process?
little confused, but does this include Sarah's house?
Yes, this is the bill that included Sarah's house. So what I'm trying to do is say, how much was assessed for the land when Sarah's house was included in it?
As soon as Sarah's house wasn't included in it, there is a house site included in the piece that got
Right,
sold off.
But I wanna know what the value was before, when it was still included in it.
Oh, it was a 2014 value, and we'd have to go back and
I have $143,200.
for the whole thing.
hundred
No,
forty-three,
no.
43, what?
$143,200 for the land outside of what the town assessed her house and 2 acres at.
I am so confused about,
Can
are you talking about 2023 tax year?
Yes, I'm
Because
talking about
that's-
last year,
And we're now in the reappraisal year, so
before you broke it out.
before we broke it out and had a townwide reappraisal, so
Yes.
all those numbers are. We can go find them, but they're not what we've been working with in the last 6 months. I could go dig them up, but they're definitely not.
Can I-
There have been 2
anymore.
changes, a townwide appraisal, and there's also been a subdivision, if you will, an acknowledgement of a subdivision. And while we're going to ignore the 3 acres, we can't ignore the land use permit.
Okay, we got questions up here, hang on a second, so
Go ahead.
Lydia and then Alan,
Me, so I'm,
yes,
so I just wanna clarify that as of April 1st,
2024.
2024, is there a house on this piece? of
There is
property?
not, it is open land.
So it's just the
classified-
piece that's shaded.
Yeah,
It's the
and the
piece that we're
little, that
talking
little
about,
triangle that's
right?
out. And
And this is the house that,
it's no
that's-
longer,
That's Sarah lot.
that's.
Okay, and-
Daughter's house.
all right, so we're talking about just this piece right here.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
And so what
Yes,
the
Alan.
figure we're trying to come up with today is a figure that includes the open land and the house with the new house on it?
No.
No.
No, the new house doesn't exist.
It didn't then,
It didn't exist on. the-
but it includes that piece of property
It
where the
puts
house
the
is.
dirt where the house is as part of the
Right.
larger
And then-
parcel.
and
It hadn't been sold
It's
yet.
up to them, it's up to those 2 parties to decide who's gonna pay what part of the tax. Or the original person has to pay it, or,
I believe so.
yeah, at any rate,
The bill
it's
goes to-
irrelevant to us that the house, that the land has been divided since then, is that correct?
I would,
That takes,
I would say.
that's
that
of
is
interest
correct.
next year, but not this year.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, there's been no tax bill assessed for that house and 3 acres that was taken out just in September. So we're just looking at the 24 or so acres of raw land between Route 91 and US 91 and Route 5. So, okay, looking at that, I was trying to get a starting point because the last tax bill didn't have a value for the land, it had the 2 combined together. So what I try to do is to separate out what the town had assessed the land outside of the house, because they did a bill for the house and the 25 plus 2 acres, 27 acres.
There was a bill for that, and that came to the 315,000 figure. And I backed out what the land was valued at in that tax bill and came up with about $143,000 in that regard. Now, the important thing about this property is that it's wedged between two highways. And that it is subject to an Act 250 permit stating back to Sandy's Land, I'm sure. That Act 250 permit was amended in order for Mr. Wells, when he was alive, to separate out the 3 acres that he sold to Kara Curtis, where she's building her home. That permit has, as you can imagine, a number of limitations for land use. Some of those limitations are no further subdivision or alteration or development of the tract without another permit from the commissioner. It takes about $10,000 in engineering and legal work to get any Act 250 permit amended. So it's an expensive proposition to do that if one were to try to further subdivide the property. One of the things that is problematic with Sarah is that she took 3 of the best prime ag soil acres on the property. And it was recognized by the state of Vermont that you have to replace that. So within the remaining land, there is now a limitation on that land that there is 3 acres in perpetuity that must be set aside for only farming of that land, no other use. So there's a strong restriction in there, and I think there's a restriction there that they also have to hay it every year to keep trees and other things from invading and interfering with the best use of the prime ag soils. There is also a wetland area on there that has to be flagged, and there's also a large gully on the area where water drains through. So if you can't take a value of property, which I think I figured out is $11,000 per acre, that's determined under this assessment, and apply it to the entire parcel of property. What you need to do is you take a look and see what is the fair market value of the property by what could we possibly sell it for. And I'm going to be having to sell this property and give the judge a figure as to what the value is. And the judge is going to say, oh, 212, or how much is our bill now? 220? 224. 224. And the judge is going to say, oh, you sold it for 134. Why did you sell it under the, well, because I believe Putney valued it over the fair market value. It is not worth the $244,000 to anybody because of the land use restrictions and the fact that when you look at the map, 50% of the property lines US 91. It's loud there because there's a hill. I know because I live on the other side of the highway and you hear the trucks grinding up the hill. Then you have Route 5 and the entire western and northern boundary of the property is bounded by Route 5, which is also a highway, not of a 22 acre parcel or 24 acre parcel in the woods somewhere where it's undisturbed and you don't have all the distractions of the noise of the trucks and the vehicles. So as far as the location of the property goes, it's got to be taken into consideration. As far as the restrictions on the property, they have to be taken into consideration in order to come up with what would be a fair value for the property. I was involved in a property transaction involving a parcel of property that was 36 acres. 36 acres of land, and it was sold by Wild Trails Farms LLC off of the Roosin Road in Springfield. If you ever look up the website for Wild Trails Farms, there's a very large lodge at the top. It's presently under a listing with one of the big companies. And it could be Lloyd's, it could be anyone, but it's over, I think, a couple $1 million, but there's a lot of land. They sold 30 acres of that land just recently for a total of $135,000. And it doesn't have highways bordering it, it doesn't have the kind of issues that you would have here with land use, and wetlands and ravines. So, looking at the simple math, basically, they were selling their property, at $3,750 an acre. That's what they got for it in an arm's length transaction. If you were to sell the 20.3 acres at $5,000 an acre, you would get $101,500. If you were to sell it at $8,000 an acre, you would get $162,000. And if you sold it at 150, it would be about $7,500 an acre. I'm saying it is not worth the $11,000 an acre that has been assessed at by the town for all these numbers of reasons. And I can find other properties that are in this general area, 20 to 30 acres. If you're going to look and use as comparables, a 2 to 3 to 5 acre parcel, it's a building lot. Yes, it can go for $11,000 an acre, but this land is not gonna go for $11,000 an acre. You're not gonna be able to find an arm's length transaction in order to get that done. I don't think that there's anything other than the maps. I think I've submitted things to you. I have the property transfer tax return for that land, the 36 acres that sold for $135,000. That just sold on October 9th, 2024. I think I provided pertinent parts of the land use. If not, I haven't.
I think you need to provide those.
I know I provided a bunch of material.
You may have given it to the listers, but I don't have those in my file.
The active.
The active-
You have the active 50, yeah, that's it. And I indicated where it is in the book and page recorded in the land records.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I guess I do have this, because that's my brother. But I'll pass that around. I do want that back.
So that's what I have to present with respect to Tim's property or the Stetson's property. And we're right now in the middle of getting the estate settled. And of course, this is an important part of the process because we're gonna be have to sell this property and get a something from the court in order to approve the sale.
Thank you very much.
Is it ours one or theirs?
No, it was actually the listers.
Good.
And we're not presenting, we're responding.
That is correct. You are responding to the information presented by the appellant.
Yeah, you go in a second. You want, I did one point, that Mr. Bowen made was that the remaining property after the recent sale is undividable. What we're talking about before that, when the property was subdividable, so that element is irrelevant. And he's also giving a comparable in Springfield, Vermont, which I would venture to say is not a comparable market to Putney, Vermont. So did you have,
Yeah, I mean, I read the land use permit, so this property is available for economic or commercial agriculture, correct? It's not, you can use it for. You can use it for.
You mean as we're zoned, the zoning district?
Well, it says in the permit, it says that the property can be used for an economic or commercial agricultural purpose, so that means it has value, so. I don't know if you've done this yet or you're thinking about doing it, but. I mean, have you thought about getting an appraisal that values the parcel strictly for its commercial agricultural use?
Agricultural is the only use you can find here, no commercial necessarily. Unless they want to be in competition with Harlow's, which I doubt anybody wants to do.
Right, so I mean, the property has utility, so.
So basically, it hasn't been used agriculturally for many, many years, so it would take some time, obviously, to be able to do that. But part of it is mandatory in perpetuity to be used for that purpose.
Right.
And that's correct.
Okay, so, I mean, we did acknowledge the fact that. The 2.5 acres is restricted to perpetual
perpetual agricultural use, so that limits it. So I mean, we did make a reduction for that, but has there been like a certified plot plan stamped by a professional engineer that delineates how much wetlands is on the property?
They have to flag it.
Okay, so, I mean, we could address the,
I mean, that's the first I knew of it when I read the permit. I'm like, I mean, you could look from the highway, it doesn't look like it, but the state
So,
has their
you
own
know, if there's,
methodology.
if there is delineated wetlands, you know, whatever amount that is in acreage, you know, the town could certainly, obviously, make a discount for that as well, but there needs to be some, you know.
But I think you have to discount the highways too. Land next to the highway is not as valuable as land somewhere
We're
else.
getting into a discussion that I think is not.
Okay.
Okay,
No, I'm just saying, if there is wetland, we can address that, but the way you address that.
saying you need
You-
proof of it.
Yeah, the proof is always a certified plot plan stamped by a professional engineer delineating the wetlands. So if they do exist, well, you know, obviously the town can address that.
Question from BCA members. Yes, I mean,
So I have a couple.
Eileen, sorry.
Starts with an A. What was my question? Okay, so, I'm assuming that there was a 2-acre house site taken out of the the land,
The 24.4 acres has a 2 acre.
and is that
house site.
valued at the full value of
It-
52?
That is at, no influences.
Okay, and then the rest of it is, what kind of influences on that?
Where did mine go? Do you have it? I had my, oh, there it is. There's a negative 10% influence for the restrictions.
Okay, and so the rest of that value, it's the value, whatever that is, okay.
Yeah.
And I think I recall you saying that there is one neighborhood in Putney and that accounts for the highway noise. Does one,
This
fall within that?
one is not falling.
That does
in
not
that.
fall within it, okay.
I didn't quite understand that.
Oh, so
Yeah.
there is, neighborhood classifications where properties sell for a little less. And this property is in the standard one, not the reduced one. There are two neighborhood values in Putney.
But, and do some of those relate specifically to highway noise?
Do they,
Not necessarily highway noise, it was just, well, yes, what's that, Taylor Road. The houses literally face the highway, so probably, I mean, they look at the highway, so obviously that's a negative. We had you know, we have to address the fact that they stare out at the highway every single day. There are other parts of, you know, highway where, you know, there's a buffer, there's a tree buffer, you know, if you're in those neighborhoods, you don't really hear the noise all the time. But when you're looking out at Interstate 89, you have to do something. So that would have been Taylor Road.
Okay, oh, but is there another one? There's two neighborhoods where.
well, the whole town is either a 50 neighborhood or a 40. And the 40 is Taylor Road and Mountain View.
So what's the percentage that gets
It's
taken
at
off?
5% discount.
5%.
Other questions,
Well, So my understanding is we're talking about just the assessment for this year. It will be
It will be different.
assessed anew next year because there's been a change there.
Correct.
And there was one house site, which is usually appraised at $157,000, is that right?
152, but.
152 up close anyway. And then you would normally add the other 22 acres and discount it something for the. So what we're talking about here, as far as you're concerned, is how much to discount the rest of the land because of perhaps a wetland or a gully or highway noise that, these are the things he's brought up that say this devalues that land. Is that?
He is bringing up those things because he says they disvalue
Right,
the land. We
right.
have a small, well, a 10% deduction and that was for the restrictions. The wetlands,
We didn't know about those.
we may or may not be there. I mean, I trust that they're there, but we don't know where. we know the highway is there, we know Route 5 is there, but it wasn't.
But my interpretation from hearing what I've heard so far is that if an inspection committee went out to see this, they would, look at the wetlands that he's talked about, look at the gully he's talked about, and look at how the highway affects it and come up with our recommendation for if there should be greater than 10% taken off for that excess land. Is it?
That sounds right, and the typical land, you have to think about Putney, what does typical land entail, depending on the degree of the big volume, it may be. Fall nicely within typical, it may,
Right.
it may not, that's.
Okay. Wendy,
I have a question that relates to what Alan just said. So how is an inspection committee supposed to be able to determine the size of a wetland? Or, I mean, I just don't understand how we could possibly do that.
We have state delineated wetland maps that
Oh, okay.
I could look at and see if they're state delineated, and if they're not. For our purposes, typically, we don't consider them unless we go out there and go, well, the state missed this one, it's pretty obvious.
Okay,
and
so
as-
the committee would have to say, it's really tiny, it's medium, it's huge.
It's, 50 feet by
Yeah,
40 feet.
what percentage of the,
And my graduate degree had to do with that, and I wouldn't be able to
Okay.
tell you the answer to that, so it's a fair question.
it does look like there's a stream that runs through the property, so that,
Which could increase the value.
right, there should be overlays though that should show at least that piece.
It could be, I can't read the fine print, so.
Yeah.
It's just, it could be, it could be.
Yeah, actually, back to 50 parentheses in there, that gets,
I have,
There's a lot of maps.
I
yeah.
have a survey,
Actually, this is a site plan, but if you had the big.
I have access to it.
It could be on there.
I'm done,
okay,
My question was to the listers, are there any comparables in Putney?
Or you can present.
You want, I can present those.
Okay.
That was. Another
Yeah,
step
that's
down the
the
road,
next thing.
is that where we
That's
are?
the next step, right?
Okay.
I apologize.
So we, oh. That's falling, where they're doing nice steps in one, there it is. So, we have a parcel on River Road, which is, so that the.
Solar field, the examinations.
So Vermont, McIntosh Apple Farm, which is on Route 5, right? I'm not sure if it's in Westminster, Vermont. It's
That property is-
it's our parcel number, so it's in Putney.
That property's in both times.
Yeah, so 34 acres in Putney for 227,600.
Is that the River Road property?
That's a River Road
A
property.
River Road.
And
And
then there's another River Road property, between.
go back to the first one again, please, and say those numbers again.
Okay, so this is Vermont McIntosh Apple Farm, and it's between Route 5, between Route 5 and River Road, I think.
Yeah, just past Fort Hill Road.
It's,
Before the highway, or is that?
You access it from River Road.
it's north of,
You go behind, you go below the highway. Oh. so it's
you're
between-
north of crossing the highway.
Yeah,
You're
you
north
cross-
of Santa's
You,
Land.
you cross the highway, you take that first right
Okay.
down Fort Hill Road, and that's how you access it.
Yeah.
Off River Road.
So that's 34 acres, 33.92, 34 acres. For 227,600 is their assessment, so a little bigger, a little more. Another one on River Road, and it's between the Connecticut River and 91, and it has a railroad easement, 20 acres for 105,500. 12, 102, 12, so it's gotta be way. Way on the right, another 24 acres on Faraway Road. Faraway Road, which is the other end of Jones Road. So this one is off of Holland Hill or off of Park Lawton. 24.3 acres, 205, 9,000. Sorry, 205, 900. And access to that one is, I'd have to go out there and see if it's maintained.
Could you say where that is against Faraway?
So Faraway Road, which is off of Holland Hill.
Which is mostly a trail at this point, right?
Well, if you can go in from both ends, and this piece is right in the middle, you can't access it from the Dummerston end. I don't know if the Putney end goes all the way into it or not. And then there's one,
We're calling that unlimited access.
yeah. Then there's one on East Putney Falls. 27.5 acres. 233,600. And I'm not sure where on East Putney Falls that is, but those are all land-only parcels. And so the assessed value range, and they range from 20 acres to 34 acres. Assessed value range 105, 500 to 233, 600. Median 216, 750. Mean 193, 150, and the subject property is 217,000, so it's very close to the median.
I'm sorry, what was the median?
The median is 216, 750.
Can I ask a question about the 20 acres that was only 105,000? That's less than we would usually assess it even for
Yeah,
something
it
2 acres.
has a railroad through the middle of it,
Right.
and that hard to cross and so forth, so that would definitely affect that. The B&M railroad easement would affect the value. And it sure looks like it does affect the value. I don't have the Mr. Card in front of me to know how much.
That was the 20 acres on River Road for one.
That was the 20 acres for 105, yes.
Is that, oh,
Because our miscellaneous land is all 0 River Road, 0 River Road, 0 Faraway roads, I don't know without looking at the map and the parcel number right where it is.
there's one place where you have to go, you literally have to go over the tracks to get to the land below. Is that it?
It's not the,
One under?
Go under the
Okay.
highway.
Okay.
the one you go under is Goodell Farm,
Oh,
and that's
There's
Creighton Hills, and that's, there's one, an underpass. Okay, I'm not,
It looks very old. Yeah,
Yeah, Paul Harlow, Melvers has a.
that's an overpass, but that's,
They have
it's
an
not there
underpass, too.
either.
Yeah, went over that.
yeah. Okay, all right. Other questions from the BCA Board of Listers? Okay, and the appellant gets to respond to the listers' information, if that is what you'd like to do.
Yeah, I'm just hearing these properties for the first time. I've looked up a few, and I think that, as you can see, they vary in the quality of what they have to offer. Certainly the one off of Fort Hill down by River Road is a east facing toward New Hampshire into the river, and it's open land looking with view. Certainly the ones down at River Road are, property that are affected by those things, the railroad, the highway. And other properties that are not anywhere near the highway and don't have wetlands are gonna go for, more property, more property value, because they're not subject to an Act 250 permit where they can't, these 20 acres, if you buy it for $220,000, you can subdivide it into 10-acre lots and make your money back. Whereas you can't do that with this property. And that's taken into account evaluation purposes as to what use you can put to the property. If you're limited in your use, then you're not gonna be able to sell it and parcel it off like this parcel, like this property.
All right, inspection committees.
Do you wanna attend the viewing of
Oh,
the
the
property by
viewing?
the inspection
Do
committee.
they want to pay me to attend? This is a better question. How long does something like this take?
We don't get paid.
We don't. Well, the reason I'm asking, the reason that I'm asking.
Can I get
is
coffee and cider? Yeah.
We could park at Harlow's and get coffee and cider. The reason I'm asking is that Eileen and Abby and I, we're supposed to have 2 inspections tomorrow, 1 canceled, or on Saturday.
Saturday.
So we're looking at a house.
You can do without me, I'm gonna be in with George. So I can't be around this weekend,
So why don't,
unless one of the heirs, unless Sarah, who lives right there, wants to do it, which she might.
okay,
I can ask Sarah, if you give me a time, she lives right there, so.
Yeah, so the first.
If she's available.
So
we're looking at a house that half an hour, 45 minutes, max.
it's like half an hour, yeah.
Okay, so we would
We have
be
to
there.
get to where.
Well, and that's why I'm suggesting, because the one we're looking at is on East Town Park Road.
Oh.
So we
we're
just
right
pop
by-
up, another mile up Route 5,
Would
and we would be there 9:30, 9:45.
Yeah.
So it's you, JJ, and who?
And
Abby. You're just trying to.
All right.
Yeah, so we're doing an inspection on East Town Farm Road 9, probably take half an hour. We'll be there 9:30, 9:40.
another 10 minutes or 15, so that would be around.
And actually, if it's let me email you, what we'd like to do is have permission to park at Sarah's.
Oh, yeah, that would be the appropriate thing to do, so, okay, so I'll call Sarah
Yeah, I'll
and
email.
say around 9:30, 10.
Well,
Probably 9, I mean, it does.
closer to 9:30
We should
because
really keep them
we
to.
have a kid, we have a kid that we need to get to gymnastics.
Yeah, I have to go up. It all revolves around me. Um,
All right, I will call her, and if, we can try to get back to you
Okay.
on that.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Thank you very
When
much.
You're not gonna email me then.
No.
Recess this hearing until the next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
the next property is Richard and Karen,
Yeah, my father.
69 Great Meadows Ridge.
69 grade.
And why do I have to-
69.
69 Great Meadows Ridge, parcel ID 030360. And you've already taken your oath.
Yes, I have. That was.
Okay.
So,
Now,
Right.
and now is it my turn?
It is your turn.
Okay, so
You would introduce the property.
this is a 10.3 acre parcel. So it's a residential 2 category. It has a cape built around 1988 with clapboard exterior, 2009 square feet, 1 living unit, 2 baths, 5 rooms, 3 bedrooms, $452,300.
Say again.
452,300
452,300.
at 2009 square feet, 2009 square feet.
While we're at it, can you just break up the land and the building, so I don't ask that?
I can do that. Land 167,000. And the house 283,800 and outbuildings 1,500.
Okay, thank you. So, going, your valuation and supporting evidence.
yeah, so, okay, this property was formerly known as Sunwood Hill Road. Because of Sun Hill Road, when 911 came in, they made us change our name. So now we're Great Meadows Ridge overlooking the Great Meadows in East Putney. I understand that, the property back in 2022, the land value was $107,400. In 2023, that jumped to 164.3. And in 2024, it went up another $10,000 to 174.4. Property, of course, has undergone no changes. And the interesting thing about those numbers is that the percentages that they yield in the increases. So the increased land value between 22 and 23 was 65%. The increased value was another 10,000. So we're looking at increased value that's way beyond typically what you would see in year-to-year assessments. I'm looking at the what you provided here.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking that the land values are a working thing from when they created this, but.
Well, okay, but here as part of the assessment on the house, it jumped from 165 to 287. And then you add in the land value, and that's where you come up to your originally 453, now 454. But I mean, the problem I have is that similar to the same presentation I made for Tim Wells's property out on Route 5. You have to understand that we have 10 acres. It was, Sir Sosno came in and logged the land, and everyone got 10 acres, and they didn't do any engineering because they didn't have to. And so when all the lots were sold along Great Meadows Ridge, there are those on the right, which border the highway, and those on the left or the east side, which border the river road. So my property goes down to River Road. My property has a drop of 850 feet from the house to River Road. It is steep. And there is no use for that property other than to, well, pick up acorns and maybe sled down it. But the fact is, Route 91 and Route 5 dump all their water through the culverts under the highway down to our property. So it right in back of the house, the property, the lower, I would say 8 acres, is cut off by the stream from all the overflow from the highway culverts. So you can't access it from where we are. You can only access it from River Road. If you've ever driven down River Road and you looked at the fort marker has been moved off the field into our property. And it's a wonderful thing to have, but people come and look at it. Mrs. Bailey, who lives next door, was telling everyone before we bought the property that it was hers, and she hoped we didn't mind that. She was putting flowers there. It was very cute. And I said, no, we'll continue to tell them that it's there. But if you drive along River Road and you're right there where the train trestle, there's a little pond there on the left, and the train trestle goes out into the Great Meadows. You look up and you just see one steep cliff all the way up to our property. So the thing about comparables, or what you may find out on Great Meadows Ridge, is that when you come past Bob Birch's property and you come up to my property, we're on the lower part of the road and we have no view. Our properties are built right next to the road. Beyond that, Mrs. Daly and the rest of the properties all the way up where the Hagemans lived. That is all built out. I'll put the driveways all the way out at the end of where they could possibly build, and they have incredible views of the river, fields in New Hampshire, which we don't have. And I think that the property values up there show a lot higher than what we would have down by us, because we just have mosquitoes and woods. But that said, we can't use that land valued at like $11,000 again an acre. I don't know what GW stands for, but the GW was put in as far as a quality of the land. And I think that the quality of the land here does not bode $174,000 for what it would be 8 acres, because I get two acres with the homestead. So the additional land would be, $174,000 associated with land. Basically, it's steep and of no use for development or other purposes. That's the problem I see with the appraisal, that it does not take into account what this. If somebody wanted to buy it for $350,000, they're not going to give me another $174,000 for that land, because they're not going to add that land up to the value of the property to be sold. It's just not going to happen. And I expect that they break these things up for purposes of being able to say, well, there's the land value and here's the house value. But you have a house value that I could live with, but I can't live with the land value. It just does not comport with the property at all.
May I ask a clarifying question? When I asked the land to get broken out, I got a figure of 167,000.
That's what I have.
So, was there a reduction before?
There is a 50% reduction on the 8.3 acres of excess because of topography.
Wait, so, but I mean for grievance, was there a reduction for grievance?
We made the adjustment,
That's what he did,
because
right?
he talked about how it dropped, and I said, yeah, we should reduce,
So 167,000 is the reduction that was,
Is the
So the
reduced
170
value,
the 174 number is no longer.
correct?
Got it, thank you.
I wondered where that came from.
Okay,
174 is now 167,
that's.
is the way I read it.
Yeah, where is that? I know that doing the market research shows that, you know, average median houses are somewhere between 369 in Windham County. That I was looking at the, Putney summary for property transfer taxes, 10 acres or more, and it looked like it was, an average was around $186,000 with the residence and 10 acres. They were trying to get all the, I guess the state tries to put all these figures together for us, because they want to be able to show us, for purpose of educational, tax, just what the difference, is between, towns and whether or not we needed this appraisal. I think we're at 80%.
72.
72%, okay, so 72%, but we, you know, with the increase of, you know, of 64%, or 60-some%, it seems to me that even if we're at 72%, a property, of land value shouldn't go up 60-something%. It seems to me that the property value increase would be comport with that kind of adjustment, the 20% adjustment or so, the 28% adjustment that you're seeing. Now they have us in at 110%, is that right? The state is showing us at 110% over the amount.
For
The CLA.
the
So
CLA,
Yes.
the way they do their calculation. maybe 110%.
So I'm just saying that was my concern. I can answer any questions.
Okay, well, not yet.
Okay.
I'm following my process
Yeah,
here.
so we get to.
Listers respond to the information presented by the appellant.
I think as we sort of answered it as we went along, except I would add that, and I've said this before to you all, but a per acre value is only good comparison if two parcels are exactly the same size, because the front loading of the first 2 acres renders it mathematically irrelevant to make a comparison. Is there anything you wanted to add to the response to that? We're not presenting yet. Okay.
So my understanding of how we deal with this 10-acre thing is that the first 2 acres we're valuing at 152,000. And the other 8 acres are valued at only 15,000, so that's under 2,000 per acre. It was closer to 4,000 before they gave you a 50% reduction.
Yes.
So, you know, everybody we talk to says this is crazy to value my first 2 acres at 152,000, but that's what we do in town. And my understanding is that at least this board has very little control over that unless you can demonstrate that your first 2 acres are not as good as your neighbor's 2 acres or everybody else. That 2 acres has to be somehow less valuable than the average 2 acre house site in town. And maybe it is, but I think that we have to know why that 2 acres is. They've already said that other 8 acres are less valuable than most people and gave you a generous discount for that. But we haven't heard why the first 2 acres is so much less valuable, which I think.
Well, so what are you saying the average acre is for my property with the reduction?
I can tell you that your first 2 acres are graded as typical at 152,000, which is,
In the other
and the other 8,
per acre.
which would typically start at 4,000 for the first 5 or 6 or something, and then go down gently, are valued at 50% of that. There's a 50% reduction, so they start at 2,000 and go out to, adjusted price $1,535 per acre for your.
So you're saying
Oh,
that,
no, is that you? That's not you. Hold on, wrong one. $1,807.23 per acre for your 8.3 acres.
so when you're showing land value of 174,000, you're saying
167,000.
that is
167,000 after grievance.
after.
Before your number was pre-grievance, and we adjusted you when you came in a month or so
164.
ago. We adjusted you down to 167 from 174.
But that is for the 8 acres or for the full 10 acres?
The full 10 acres is 167,000.
So if you have the house in 2 acres and you're saying the 2 acres is typical, I've looked at a number of properties that were sold. 444 East Town Farm Road, 365,000, 22 Kimball Hill Road, 350,000. 208 Westminster Road, 380,000. Old Stage Road, 296, Kimball Hill, 320. I mean, I'm not seeing numbers that are $480,000.
Okay, those are recent sales you just,
They came off of the website.
What was that?
is that assessed value
That-
or is it recent sales?
This is recent sales.
Which website?
The state of Vermont did the comparison of how they got to our 62% or 72%, and they listed the sales prices of various properties.
You're looking at the equalized sales study?
It's part of the state of Vermont program for determining educational tax.
Must be the equalization study.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
equalize it though.
Yeah,
I don't know if they equalized at the end or whether they equalize each one.
I don't know.
That's what it
either.
took off of their website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Just one.
Now, we don't trust the government, I don't know who did.
their numbers are good if we knew what we're in this stage.
Yeah, I mean, they do say 4-bedroom for one, 4-bedroom, a lot, we're 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom, so they're,
If
you
you want
know,
to give
trying to
us,
compare apples to apples, I guess.
if you want to get back to us as evidence, that would be, I mean, that's what we're taking in
Yeah,
evidence.
so
One of
let's
them
go
would be
back.
sales comparison.
22 Kimball Hill,
20, let me see, so one was, 22 Kimball Hill, the other was 444 East Town Farm Road. The other was 208 Westminster Road.
Okay, so what we're gonna need,
Maybe I could find it on the website,
Yeah.
I just wrote it
Yeah.
down because I didn't print it, but I could
So-
probably print it.
so the best info that we would need is the sale date,
Why don't I print it?
okay, sale date, sale price. And location and, type of building, so 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
they don't give
Yeah.
a lot of information,
Yeah.
just some information.
Acreage might be
Acreage,
useful, because
yeah,
the ones that are
Like if it's-
Kimball Hill are gonna
yeah,
be quite a
so-
bit less because of the land.
You might wanna find them on like the MLS site rather than the sales study, because I'm not sure all the information is there.
the PTTRs are searchable on the town.
Yeah, I did find some information.
22 Kimball Hill.
PTTRs. Yeah, let me see. No.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a house with.
It's a two-family, right?
It's just the one.
No, it's just,
The-
it was,
And then
there's only one.
the town farm road one is on an owner maintained road.
Okay.
You know, it's abandoned there. And 208 Westminster keeps coming up, but that's Zach and Amy Caldwell's.
And it should be Sam's. They got it wrong on the PTTR, they used the wrong Caldwell's span.
Who's on
Should
sham
be,
number?
it's the wrong span number, so it comes up, it's a half brother. Well, it's sold, but it's a different house.
But 208 Westminster Road is a 10-year-old sale almost.
Yeah, it should be, 16 South Windmill Hill.
I thought they sold for 380.
It did.
Can I ask a question at this point?
Yes,
I heard you say, Rich, that, you thought your big complaint was about the value of the land, not about the house. You thought the house looked fairly reasonable, but the land seemed like it went up too much.
Right, apparently I'm evaluating it the wrong way. I'm looking at the 8 acres being $11,000 an acre, and they're saying, no, 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 no. You have to look at the 10 acres and your site, and then you were gonna say your land is worth a little less, but I just don't see how the total land with the 2 acres and that reduction, the way you presented it, is worth $147,000.
And, go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate that the first 2 acres is the primary site.
Right,
All excess acreage is assessed at 4,000 an acre.
unless,
And then obviously economy of scale kicks in once you get to, you know, the value diminishes as you go to 10 to 15 to 20.
and then you take.
Right, and then you have your adjusted price, so all excess acres in Putney starts at $4,000. Okay,
And to clarify, the 50%, was taken off of the excess, not the primary site.
Correct.
And one point of clarity too, or something I wanted to point out, because we had this come up a lot about,
Yeah,
property value.
I might not totally
If
understand.
someone owns a half an acre, they are charged $152,000 for the land.
Well,
No,
not quite.
No,
they are charged
A fraction of whatever.
more than a quarter of 152. But, so I think I have to
Economy of
schedule
scale.
it. It's 2 acres, 152. I think 1 acre is 108 or 114 or something. Maybe 75 or 80 for a half acre. It's definitely a curve, but so if you can build on it, it's worth a lot, up to 2 acres, and then
It's up to
then
2
it's
acres.
excess beyond that.
so even 2 acres compared to 10, yeah.
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 2 acres compared to 3. It's a big,
Right.
yeah.
so,
Other questions or anything from the BCA?
well, I just want to make sure that I'm partially not, I'm asking you if you understand the way that this was evaluated. And that you know, the excess, what you think is that exorbitant price for the land has to do with the system of charging $152,000 for the first 2 acres around the house.
Yeah, now, if I take the 32,000, if you're saying it's reduced to $2,000 an acre for the 8 acres, that's $32,000. But if I'm assessed, $164,000 for the land,
Your math
that's
is
what
wrong.
I'm being assessed at,
167,
167.
and the house is 283.8.
So that means the 2 acres is worth $135,000.
152,000. The first 2 is 152,000 for the first 2 acres, is the standard first 2 acres for everybody in town.
So there was $15,000 for the other 8 acres, which came to about $1,800 per acre. So very different from the way you were looking at it, where you were thinking you were being charged 11,000 per acre.
Well, the way I was looking at it may be different, that's right, but then, I'm also looking at the fair market value of the land and the house. If I can't sell my property for it, they can sell up on the ridge because they have incredible views, and I don't. So I'm looking at my property and saying that it's not worth what their property is, and their property is in the 400, 500 range. Mine shouldn't be. Mine should be in the 350 range, which is where I expect the market to settle on it, unless the market changes and the market goes up and down. And I've seen a couple of instances now where, especially in my practice, that the market is going down, so it fluctuates.
Any other questions? No.
Now we have no more questions. Do we now present our
Yeah.
comps?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So again, our
Helpful.
Rich's comps are sales, indicating what he thinks it should be. Our comps are to show that our assessment of his property is fair and equitable. So we're looking at similar properties. They're all capes. They range from, his is in 1988. 1989 is our newest, 1975 is our oldest. So we have 40, and I have a average, what's that? average or actual assessed value per square foot?
That's the assessed value.
Oh, okay, the A is assessed. So the assessed value per square foot, and it includes the land? Or is it- Yeah, it includes the land, and we range in size from 10.3 acres on the site. Big one is 24 acres, the small one is 9 acres, 9.8 acres, so. The subject property, 225 a square foot, 47 Earl's Way. Older one, 266 a square foot, 68 Earl's Way, 262 a square foot. 171 Black Locust, 247 a square foot. 139 Plowden Road, 207 a square foot. And 208 East Town Farm, 246 a square foot. So the assessed value is 207 to 266. The median is 247. The average is 245. The subject is 225. So it's on the low end of the range.
George, could you give, since we, on the other ones, we've actually had the acreage and the full assessment.
I could provide a
Yeah.
copy of this,
Oh, okay, that'd be
if
great.
you remind me when it's,
Okay.
I can make one for your committee or whatever, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can give you one now because we have another one. Thank you. We can do that for any of the ones we do tonight. if you
okay,
like.
thanks.
So are there other questions? Or are we ready to appoint an inspection committee?
Can I just ask what the square foot value is on my listing site?
I'm sorry.
The square foot, you were just saying square foot values for comparables?
That's how.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Because I just didn't know what you determined my square foot value.
that, and I didn't do yours, these are ones
Oh,
that,
all right, I just.
yeah.
I thought you said the subject property.
Oh, I did, your subject property, with the, land. Sorry, I'm, it's 225. So it was on the low end of these, and I would, in looking at this and looking to what you presented, and this is not about you, this is about this. The 2022 line is prior to reappraisal. The 2023 line is the KRT working line. The 2024 line is the working line, and this one actually shows the result of grievance. But it's pre before I did the rollover probably, so really, if you want to compare old grand list to new grand list, it would be the 2022 line and the total parcel up in the corner. This is, I'm not surprised your numbers are all over the place because this has got some idiosyncrasies in it.
Okay,
And these are all assessed values rather than sale prices.
Correct, because we're showing that it's in the range of similar properties and that our charge is to be fair and applicable.
Okay, ready for inspection committee?
you know, up yours. Okay, Wendy,
Yeah, I'll volunteer for this one because
Nancy.
I live on the road.
Okay.
I have yet to do this.
Okay.
Oh, you get all of them.
Guess who gets to do the report? No, okay.
I'll share some information with you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Recessed until,
Thank you, and yeah, I'm sorry for not being able to attend an earlier notice because of my schedule, but I appreciate your making time for me today.
Speaking of people who couldn't attend earlier,
Yeah.
appearances,
well, you were commenting on your,
Yeah, how long I've been practicing law is reflected in this bag.
and I just wanted to let you know the
Which-
tip has a
I
bag
keep
just
telling
like
the
that.
kids, when you get old, you don't discard things, because they're ready to get rid of us, so. It's like,
Well,
New England, 50 Yankee.
that's right, that's right.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fitzgerald. Well, thank you. And thank you all for being here to do it. Taking the time. And we need to start with the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give relative to the cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do. Thank you.
Now I'll get back to my steps. Have you received a copy of the rules of procedure? Not that we seem to be following them, but. You received a copy. And do you have any questions about them? Okay. BCA members, do you have any conflicts of interest or ex parte communication to disclose? All right, so listers, please introduce the property.
Okay, this property, I'll do JJ's part too, is 134 Parkingwood Road, parcel number 0600203. Is that the part you usually do?
Yes.
Parkingwood, which
Yep.
is off of Holland Hill.
Just remember, we're trying to write down everything you said.
Yeah.
Okay,
0600203.
yes.
Okay,
This is 74.31 acres. So residential 2 with a cape, built around 1979. Clabbered exterior.
1797.
We do have some 1797 ones, but they're old.
My house is not that good.
3,056 square feet.
Thanks.
One living unit, it's 2 baths, 8 rooms, 3 bedrooms. And let me stop writing, the value. 657,200. And is it right now, Eileen, you'd like
Yes,
to break
let's break it
down?
down.
Uh, land is 354,200. And I will tell you right now that it doesn't show up on this sheet, that it has an excellent view, which puts the first 2 acres at 243,200. And the residual acres excess acres are reduced 50% at 111,000.
111,000.
And
So the two was 242,000.
243,200, which is one of the several excellent view properties in town.
It's not that great.
Nice. I guess you haven't seen the rest then.
So, and the building, 301,800. And $1,200 of down payments.
1,200.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So, would you please present your evaluation and your supporting evidence?
Okay, well, keep it simple. Our house site, the house went up, the value of the house went up, 34%. That's not a big issue. The issue is the valuation of the 2 acres. Went from, well, it was it was 4 acres excluded, but the 113 last year. And this year, the 2 acres, just for 2 acres included, it's 243.
And
It's 120.
when you say excluded, you're talking like excluded from current use?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the 2 acres that the house sits on, is valued at $243,000. Which is up from less than 113,000 last year, so it's a 120% increase. This 2 acres we have two parcels, actually, there are two contiguous parcels that comprise the 74 acres. This 2 acre house site sits on 27 acres of zoning land. So even if we were to try and sell the house with 2 acres, we couldn't do that. If the house wasn't there, we could never sell the 2 acres for $247,000. I mean, it's just, I couldn't imagine anybody would pay that much money for a 2 acre lot, even if it has a good view. I won't deny that. Our neighbors down the road, they have 25.5 acres. Theirs, this is, yes. Okay. They have, 25.5 acres. And their land is valued at, they have a view, it's not as expensive as our view. But they do have a really nice view. Their total land for 25.5 acres is valued at $223,000, which is less than our 2 acres is valued. It just didn't make any sense to me. We could go along with, the 34% increase in the house. But the land just seemed excessive. And that's my complaint. That's it. I mean, it's simple. I'm not complaining about the, 38% of the house increase, just the 120% increase on the value of the 2 acres that sits on conserved land, which you can't subdivide, so you couldn't sell it anyways, 2 acres.
When he's done, I have a question.
Yeah, yes, please, you're up for response.
Is it a Vermont Land Trust conservation? What's the conservation?
Oh, it's
Is it current use?
It's current use, but it's zoned 27 acres.
Okay. Because if it was,
It's zoned
if it had
conservation.
a conservation easement on it, we missed that area.
Yeah, no,
We
it
need
doesn't
to
have
take care of it.
conservation,
It doesn't.
it's just 70 acres are in current use, and the main parcel, 45 acres, is in conservation zone, which is 27 acres, which the house sits on.
Oh,
Which the 2 acres sits on. So you couldn't do anything with.
right.
the 2 acres. If the house
I guess-
wasn't there.
I do have one response, if the house wasn't there,
Mhm.
the house site wouldn't be tagged with the view because we wouldn't know where the house site was. So it would be the 152,000. If you hadn't built the house, you did say you couldn't sell it without the house for 243. We agree. That you say, here's a nice place to build your house, but it doesn't get the view attached to it until the house. Till it's designated, this is where the house is going. Prior to reappraisal in the old list, I believe, in looking at these numbers, it could be that the, parts of Pollen Hill were in a higher land assessment. They were a neighborhood 1.5, and I'm guessing with the numbers you gave me that Parkman may have been, because your overall land increase was 38%, you said?
Just total.
And townwide, first, it's closer to, 2.5 times. So, 250%. So I suspect that your land was higher before than it is in the standard. Your house site went up 1.5 times. If I did my math right as I listened to your numbers, which is below the typical for town. So
So up 120%.
overall, the house site went up 100.
The 2 acre piece.
including with the house?
No, not just in the house.
Oh, okay.
The house, the
more
house
than-
itself went up 30. The house itself went up 34%.
Yeah. Okay, so your overall,
Yeah, I don't have.
yeah, I had 483 to 657, so it went up by about 50.
The total listed value went up 36%.
Yeah, which is below the townwide average, but the front loading, I think, changed, which is what caught your attention, probably.
Well, yeah.
And that's a function of being reappraised.
Yeah, I understand that, but I still have a hard time with the neighbor's total piece of land, 25 acres. And they have a decent view. I mean, it's granted, it's not as expansive as ours. But their total land value is less, it's like $30,000 less than our 2 acres.
So 240, like 213 or something.
You have their card?
It was, their land value was 223 compared to the 247, so it's 20. So their land value went up 38%. Now, I didn't have the breakdown for the 2 acre house site.
Yeah,
Well, it's at least 152,000.
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah, but I'm wondering if there was a premium supplied to that too, do we know?
I'm sort of trying to run some quick numbers to make it up to it. So was it 28 Parkman Wood?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, 223, 800. Total assessment, it doesn't break out house and land, but I can, 23 acres, it's gonna be,
Yeah, it breaks it down, gives you building value, gives you.
yeah, I'm with the first 2 acres in.
Can I throw some figures in while I do the thing?
Yeah.
So, you were assessed 60% more than most of us for your house site. Most of us are paying 152,000 for the first 2 acres, and your 243,000 is 6% more, or $91,000 more. So just putting that into perspective, and you said there are only a couple places in town that were charged that much, or?
I can think of 3 others without looking.
But it's unusual, very.
It's an excellent view. My view is an 8, his is a 9, mine is good. His is excellent, mine is very good, his is excellent.
They're scored. The views are scored in which way?
So if you don't have a number, it would be a 5,
Yeah,
and the view has no impact.
uh-huh,
A good view, or they call it an average view, so you have a view, 6, a good view, 7, or I'm not quite sure,
mhm.
a 7, a very good 8, excellent 9. We don't have a 10, we have one property that would be a 10. So this, if we had a 10, but we don't. So no, it has a house on it, but the scale doesn't go to 10.
I mean, very top of the scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a point.
Okay, but you found the information here?
There is subjectivity. But you know, when our data collector was out there, he said, very good view, mountain views, 180 degrees. This guy hikes the White Mountains.
Yeah, I'm looking at New Hampshire too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Jerry was there. Jerry knows a view, and you know, obviously.
And am I correct that anybody that's rated a 9 would be assessed the same 243,000 for first 2 acres, is that?
Yes.
That's correct.
Unless there was some other way to decrease it because of.
Yeah, if there was another extenuating factor, because half of it was a cliff or something, but.
Now, what about what's his name, who lives up on Banding Road?
That's the one that would be a 10 feet.
That's enough.
Because that's as high as the scale goes.
Right, but his view is.
It's
much
better than.
Right. So,
Nine
so
plus.
my view is an 8 and yours
Well,
is.
maybe your view is way too high too.
Some sevens and sixes, and mine is better than theirs, but not as good
Now we're
as yours.
All right, Alan, are your questions answered?
I think I understand the issues here,
Did you get the?
Did we find a breakdown for that?
I think the system's there.
How convenient.
Would you like me to try?
We don't need that right now.
Okay, so I can get,
It's on this list of procedural steps, it's the listers presenting their valuation.
okay,
Now,
so we
And
have
supporting
our pumps. So. And these are, subject property is 74 acres, the comps are 76, 78, and 78.7, 78.9.
Those are just land.
And those, these are land only, so we're looking only at the land. The Fitzgerald property, the 74 acres, the land, 354, 200. 463 East Town Farm Road, and I'm happy to give this sheet to the town clerk so he can copy it for you. 322.9 per acre.
No,
I'm not 322.9 for the total. Good catch. Red Clover. The land is 392,100.
and that's the 78.7.
That's the 78.7. And that one, I will say, because it has a bunch of houses on it, that may be not a great.
And what's the amount again?
92.
392,100, that's higher, but it,
there's three.
because it has 4 houses, 4 unlanded houses, they did get some adjustment for that, so that's a little higher than it would be. And then there's Zero Bells Falls Road, parcel number 7, so it's sort of up there somewhere, but I'm not sure which one. 78.8 acres, 368,000.
I just wanted to add, typically, you're talking about total value, but the taxpayer was questioning the land value, so we just wanted to augment what we're presenting here today with, similar size lots for the board to consider, even though you're ultimately deciding on the total value, so it's just a backup for the board.
And then we also have, developed properties.
So some of those were developed, but we were only giving us the land.
Only like the subject property is developed, but just the land, and that includes the view. The East Town Farm one is developed, so if it has a view, it's included. The other 2 are undeveloped. But the Red Clover one includes more than one house site, but they're not full value because of the way it's a PUD, similar to what, something you might be familiar with.
That doesn't have a view either.
Does not have.
Red Clover.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to think where the Bellows Falls Road is, and I think it's as you're going north on Route 5, just after you pass the Brook Road, there's woods up at that goes up to
oh, on the left-hand
Pine
side.
Banks Road on the left. There's a big lot in there, by some guy in Illinois.
Yeah.
I think it's town personnel.
So the ones with houses, would you like me to read those? Which is more numbers, or you can wait until you have the.
You have it written down?
I have it here, and I'll give it to JJ to copy for you. But then I can tell you the subject. I just give you the building assessment, which is separate from the land assessment, is that, how do we do that? Cause I have both the average square foot value for the whole property, land assessment, merit items, building, I'll do the buildings, so. 28 Parkman Wood, so subject property building is 301,800. 28 Parkman Wood, which is and the subject property is 1979 Cape, 75 Colonial, 282,700. 1980 Cape, virtually the same age, smaller, 270, 200. Another Colonial, 1989, so newer. Also smaller, 353, 900. Another Colonial in 1989. Smaller, 386, 200. A 1991 Colonial, so 12 years newer. And a little smaller, 387. Modern contemporary, 51 Dusty Ridge Colonial. Which house that is. I know. 288 Holland Hill, modern contemporary from 1985. It's fair amount smaller, but 412,000. And 719 West Hill, modern contemporary built in 1995 for 593.
Those are all just buildings.
Those are just the building, not the yard items. And only one of those, the 28 Parkman Wood, is 42 square feet bigger than the subject property. All the others are several hundred to almost, in the last one, 7 West Hill is bigger. The rest are smaller, several hundred feet smaller. And we both use the 28 Parkman Wood as a comp.
What was their view rated
Hmm?
at? What was their view rated at?
I would have to, they went to try find out, and I can get into the system if that's something you guys want. You can call me later and I will, I can look that up for you and tell you it's public information, I just don't have it.
Okay.
And would you like to respond to the visitor's evidence?
Oh, no.
Questions from the BCA?
Yes, so you said you were zoned for 27 acres, right?
Yes,
Okay, and you said you had 4 acres excluded from current use?
yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
There's 2 acres that are excluded with value or something.
Yeah, is there excess acres right now? I'm just
Right.
curious what the current use,
Yeah,
excess acre, what was excluded from current use?
yeah, it's 70 point something.
Okay, we're ready for the inspection committee.
I'd love to see that view.
Yeah.
What was recommended to me as a lister when I was asking about views was go look at some of them and say, this is what was coded as 6, it was a 7, this was an 8, this was a 9. So I can.
You have a slideshow?
Are you inviting us to your house too?
We'll look at the one on Banning Road before you.
One that's really 11.
Or at least a 10.
The one on Banning Road is on the ridge, you can see west and east.
Wow.
Tear it down. That's what Cora's good.
Alan, are you really on the committee?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do this one too.
Okay.
Great.
Wendy. Okay,
So we'll be reaching out to you to come up and have a look. It has to be within 30 days of tonight.
Okay, great. So just don't look at the gardens around the house because they're brand new and they're really nice.
I'm 30 days.
yeah.
See what happens when you retire?
Thanks.
You have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, just a little, funny anecdote. When we first met Jordy, we had lunch with him down at the co-op. And he showed me a picture of his property and go, where's that view? Then he says, I'm not telling.
Then he's finishing the last of the inspections and I get a phone call and he says, wow, guess where I am? Bankrupt.
That was the last property I looked at.
Oh,
That was a hard,
last.
that thing was up. That was a hard,
It was
it takes a
evening,
lot to impress me, but that was a hard pounder.
Oh, wow.
summer evening, you know, the evening light.
It's perfect. Whoa. 8:30 at night, I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Billy, maybe you could arrange a tour of all the 8s and 9s in town, and you could charge a little bit to make up for the 90,000.
We'll pay you mileage.
For reference. What you said, 93,000 for his?
Yeah,
I think mine is an 8 is a 76,000.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the other ones are, but, they're noticeable.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, the other thing I would say is, how we get to that generally is you want to have sales to prove that. So we had the farm that sold, which is the farm on top of the hill that had the.
Dioxide problems.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So when you go, when you're trying to, when you want to get to the land value for a property like that, how do you do, you take your base lot of 152,000 and then essentially. You have to factor your way to get to the land value that will show that we can. Equalize that new value. So essentially, that's what you're doing.
Thank you.
And we also had other sales like on View Drive, we had.
Mountain View,
Mountain View there, but it wasn't
not Mountain View, but,
View Drive.
Tom Myers.
Oh, up off Town Farm Road.
Yeah, View Drive. So
Something View.
there's another property that sold there, so we were actually out at the property looking at it and how do we get to value again? You're gonna use a factor, so that's what you're doing.
Janice is up next to you, and those Pine Ridge Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are very nice to you also.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Great.
Very much. Yeah, you're likewise.
Nice to see you. It's good to see you too.
We'll be in touch.
Okay. Quick question. Salty no longer lives at our house.
Oh, okay.
And I just give that to you?
Yep.
I mean, he's registered in Boston.
Okay.
You can just take him off the list.
Can he send me an email? I can't take him off the list without him asking to be taken off the list.
Okay.
So the two options I have is that I can challenge him. Or he can send me a note and say, hey, I'm registered in Boston.
Okay.
Let me give you my card so you can get that to him.
I just want to stand up.
Yeah, let's stand up a little bit and the next property owner is online.
Oh, there's.
Not me, what do we have?
No, say
I think they're gonna come in.
Now, running out of paper.
Yeah, I want to.
Like a snack?
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
you're welcome. Here, snack.
Here it goes.
Good, thanks.
I found that.
I mean, or it's not there, Nate, what's your sponsor? And Eric.
She was just here.
For your hand.
Now, I feel, I think I remember.
We don't.
That is to put the blue curtain thing,
Yeah,
and that's there so that
Hi.
people can, so that some of us can wear
found
sandals
a
and feet.
cul-de-sac.
Remember that we're being recorded.
Where everything is. Oh, okay.
So. But that's the easy. So it's.
I gotta get my you those. Oh, because I got a wire there.
No, you just match if you want. I guess I'm good. You're not getting a trader. It's a trainer, Joe. You need a trader.
All right.
You do.
That'd be nice.
That's what. That's what. That's used now.
Stand up. I wish you didn't else. I love it. I really do. How much? You have? 2.5. 2.5. And then there's that field behind it, right? No. No, actually, we have the easement across, okay? Hand out on that.
Yeah, because what's your. You cut, you know, all that property there, with cuts down trees.
Let's see, I didn't talk about it.
Mr. Stroll, can you hear me?
Yeah, John, can you hear me?
Okay, you're next. We're just taking a break and then.
Yeah.
You're gonna present your.
I was trying to chat to you, John, then I to let you know if you couldn't hear me, but you can hear me okay.
It sounds like we, be very quiet. I don't know if we can turn the volume up.
If I take the headphones off, can you hear me better?
We can't really hear you. We'll have to be quiet, but he's trying to turn the volume up too.
Okay. Okay.
You want something down, find a young person.
That's a good idea.
I'll give this a try. I can't promise anything. Let's see.
Everybody's doing it. I am, I get that thing back.
All right, well, that's the last.
Yes. I'm gonna pay it. We'll see.
Hey, Rob, would you say something again, please?
Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh,
But she's still quiet.
unfortunately, that's as loud as that goes. Let's see. Yeah, we're at max.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You know, I for this, the speaker is coming from the computer that.
Yeah, it should.
How attached are we to having the screen? Cause I can move the laptop
Yep,
over
that's
here.
fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
Once we can hear
Okay, yeah, I'm hearing this is better.
Oh, I get to see my face twice. I like it.
That's taking a lot. That's as far as that goes. Hopefully this works. We'll see. I don't know. You wanna give that a pass, Nancy?
What?
Would you?
Well, that's
What?
say, you want me to say something?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Mr. Schroll?
Yes, sure can.
Okay, that's very, very hard to hear you.
That's
Really
the loudest.
Is that as loud as the sound on that thing goes?
Absolutely turn it all the way up. If Rob has the ability to adjust his microphone volume up.
Yeah, I
that's-
don't, sadly. Yeah, I could try to go out and rejoin again if that's possible, see if it makes a difference.
I don't think that'll make any difference.
Or you
Okay.
maybe call, no, that wouldn't work. I was gonna say call him by phone, but it's on our end.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
Last time we had one, you can.
We did do that.
yeah.
I can shout a little louder too.
you.
Well,
Do you have WhatsApp?
we'll just be really quiet and you can just talk really loud and maybe it'll
Okay.
work.
Okay.
You have to administer the oath.
The first thing we have to do is I have to administer the oath. Mr. Schroll, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give relative to the cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. We're gonna try one more thing with some speakers.
Sure.
Going on school, I think you get that speaker there, Jordy. All right.
We should send these recordings to the legislature. Yes, evidence.
All right, we want to give that a try again?
Sure. Is that any better?
That doesn't, all right, sorry,
Did it
sorry,
still-
folks.
did it still-
They turn it all the way up.
Turn it all the way up. Try it again.
You're-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's continuing to come out of here, even though I plugged speakers in.
I think you've got to go into your settings in Zoom.
Yeah, no,
No, all right,
I don't know if there's any other spots.
let's see what else we can do here.
Oh,
I mean, I can shout loud and just go very briefly over my stuff and then see if that works.
come on here, get a little bit more. All right, I think that's as far as up as that will go. I think that's the best we're gonna get, friends, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you for trying. Yep, can't hurt, right? Hold on for
Yep.
that.
Okay. Um. Mr. Trell, have you received a copy of the rules of procedure?
I did.
Do you have any questions about the procedure?
No, and observing this today was helpful too, to see.
Okay, thank you. It was interesting for us as well.
I just want to take that view tour.
Yes. PCA members, do you have any conflicts of interest in or ex parte communication?
No.
To disclose, okay. Listers, will you introduce the property, please?
Which one are we doing first? You're doing Abenaki Ridge or Great Meadows Ridge?
Sure, Jordy, let's do Abenaki.
Okay,
Okay,
Abenaki.
Abenaki Ridge. This is, a 2.5 acre parcel. Residential one, has a cape on it, built about 1980. Clapboard exterior, 1,404 square feet, 1 living unit, 2 bathrooms, 6 rooms, 3 bedrooms. $330,300 total value, and that's 56 Abenaki Ridge, parcel number 080304. Eileen, the primary site is $152,000. The half acre excess land is $2,000 for $154 for the land. And the building, $163,300 and $1,300. Sorry, $13,000, thank you, for a garage.
2,000 per.
Right.
A garage.
The price on the land again?
$154,000 for the 2.5 acres.
Okay, Mr. Schroll, please present your evaluation and your supporting evidence.
Yeah, I don't know. John, were you able to send this, the packet that I sent? Does the board have that?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so I mean, you could basically review that. I have less concern about this property than I do Great Meadows. I guess the question I first have to Jordy, because it may solve a problem here, is Jordy, was the change that you folks made reflecting that the basement wasn't finished, or are you still showing that it's finished?
Unfinished? It's showing as unfinished.
Okay, so that's so then the only thing that I have, but which may I'd like to hear you speak about this because I think you've already kind of answered my question in the previous people's times. My biggest concern was, does it reflect, as for example, if I were to sell this property right now, I with a 24, 22-year-old roof, I'd have to put a roof on, or I'd have to consider that. And that's probably the major expense. The windows are all fogged up and would have to be replaced. There's a number of things which are in that packet that I would have to reduce the price. So I think it would be a stretch to get over 300 based on the condition of the property and the fact that the upstairs has subflooring and the windows aren't trimmed out. But what I heard you say, Jordy, was that you were looking at it as how is it equitable across the whole townwide appraisal? And so that may make a difference here in terms of what would I actually be able to sell it for, as opposed to how fair is it compared to other properties. So when I look at it, I say, okay, could I get 300 on this? I'd like to ask 315 or so. If I got 300, I'd be happy. But the question I have is it equitable in terms of the townwide numbers that you have? Because I heard you differentiate that between what's fair market value and what's fair as a townwide appraisal.
You want me to answer?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if that, the biggest thing here is it fair townwide? If it is, then maybe we don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah, you're.
So when we get to our comparables, we'll give ones that demonstrate fairness. And I would add that a 1980 house in average condition has an old roof and old windows typically. Average would in 1980 would reflect that.
All right, well, then the comps that I have, I've given you that I just compared it to the nearby properties. I got to look at my notes here. Sorry that I can't look directly in the camera when I do. And I just compared it to my neighbors' houses and made adjustments to that based upon the values of those properties, two of which sold not that recently. But that's all in the board's hands, so they can review that. I don't need to waste your time tonight with that.
Yeah. So I can we shall give our comparables then, or
Well, I don't know if the BCA members have any questions right now.
Sorry, yeah, about to sneeze. So,
and I have his comparables here and ours, it turns out, so.
okay, with the result of agreements was to, remove the finished basement. Is that what I heard?
I think that's what here's
I know the value is adjusted, so.
there's the new car.
Yeah, now
Oh, I
I think you have the paperwork.
I have the.
I didn't either, it just appeared on my lap just now.
How many more of you?
Yes, yeah.
And then.
That's it.
Is it there?
I might have found what I'm looking for. Ridge. Looks like. That's what. Recommend the grade, we changed the land, the grade from a better than average to average. Maybe,
And the basement's unfinished.
yes, we unfinished the basement and we lowered the condition grade.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
And what was the original, total value?
346, 100. Is that what it was?
That's more than I have here, so probably, I'm trying to,
347, 100?
46.
346.
oh, is that the new card? This is 339.
Oh, no, it was. That was the preliminary, so. It would have been 339.5.
Was, what, sorry, what, that was 339.5 is the original?
Pre-grievance.
Okay, 339,500. Okay, thank you.
yeah, so Jody, if you've lowered the condition and taken off that it's unfinished, or taken that it's unfinished downstairs, then the really only lingering question I have is its fairness and compared to others. And you
Okay,
know,
so I
present
can-
your,
So I have another Cape on Old Stage that is, this one is 2.5 acres at subject property, $235 per square foot. 78 Old Stage, slightly newer Cape. A little smaller, $231 per square foot. 114 Old Stage, and slightly newer Cape, slightly larger, $232 per square foot. 27 Spring Hill, that is also on 2.3 acres. Second one was 2 acres, and on 27 Spring Hill, 3.9 acres, so more land, slightly larger. Grossing, a slightly larger building, $234 a square foot, subject property 235. Range 231 to 234, 232 in the middle. This one is a little on the little higher.
yeah, so I would say if this board just would take the opportunity to look at my data and yours, and make a determination, I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from the BCA?
I didn't quite understand what you said. Can somebody repeat it?
I think, Mr. Terrell, let me repeat what I think you said,
Yeah,
and you can tell me if I'm wrong. So what I
Okay.
understood you to say was that the board can look at your information that you presented as comparables, look at the lister's comparables, and then reach a determination.
that's right.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's kind of, so here's ours and his.
And then we'll move on to the next property.
We need that one too, so here's.
Yeah.
Here's 56. Here's 0.
9. This is 6, so Great Meadows Ridge.
Yes.
Okay.
0. So he goes, oh, want me to introduce it?
Yes, yes.
So this is a 134 Great Meadows Ridge, parcel number 080134. This is 12 undeveloped acres, so classified as miscellaneous for a value of $170,700.
170,700.
170700, yes.
No house.
No house, land only.
And
And this one has a RW right of way. Right of way on the site, site, for -5%, so the first 2 acres are 144,400. And the 10 acres of excess are not influenced, so the 10 acres are 35,000. For land value,
Really changed during the
Oh.
agreements.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the old sheet. Topographic reduction of 25% on the 10 excess acres, so they are 26,300. For a total land value of 170,700.
What was the, topographic?
Negative 25%.
Okay, and then it was, so then it was 26,3 for. It doesn't list it, for topography.
Topography.
26,300.
Negative 25% for topography,
Is what?
26,300.
That's what it was reduced to.
Yeah,
The excess was, that was during grievance.
during grievance.
So what was the original?
Do you have that?
The original must be this one. 179,400. Down to 170,700. 170,700.
179,400.
400, yeah.
The numbers are no longer going slow.
Oh, it's impossible.
All right.
Okay. So, Mr. Stroll, would you like to present your evidence?
Yeah, if, John, I'm gonna ask again, were you able to see the, give the board the material that I had that also shows topographical pictures?
That this, can you see?
Yeah, that I barely, but yes, I think that's it.
Okay.
Where I show down, you know, that I compare it essentially to the lot that's just above it, which is more attractive. And has a view, has view potential. It's a little bit overgrown now and has the lot, house lot cut out, whereas this is not. And I suppose my two biggest issues are three, perhaps, those adjusting factors of lower lot. It's the lowest lot in subdivision. It has no possibility of a view. It sounds like you've taken some kind of a discount on the fact that it's a long private access road. But you know, looking at 260% increase, and that's one issue I have. And the fact that I came before this board 10 years ago and they saw it for what it was worth at that time. And then to see that just jump from, you know, literally as if that decision by this body was ignored was a little bit concerning. But then if I just compare it to the other lot, the percentages don't make sense to me. 174 as opposed to 177 for my lot, where I have such a small piece of that actually can be built upon. Say nothing of the fact that I'm not using it as that.
Okay, listeners to respond to. Presented.
So it said it went up 150%.
47, 370.
250. So 2.5 times is the sort of the typical land change across the board for the properties under 15 or so acres. What, I could barely hear what he was saying, so I don't, did you hear anything that we need to respond to? I'm straining my ears, but.
I just think he thinks that his land value was low before,
Low before and high now.
and you know, now we're looking at the new.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think it's the fact that I brought this before this body before 10 years ago, and they saw exactly what I'm sharing now, that it has a lesser value than the other lots in that subdivision.
So we compared sort of across town as opposed to across the subdivision. There are.
But before you get to that,
Oh,
we don't have the paperwork from 10 years ago to
Yeah.
see what the board did.
we don't know what the board did 10 years ago. And
Well, I sent that's in the packet. That's it.
And it's a different time, a different evaluation, a different set of market conditions and everything. So we're not. We have left 10 years ago behind and are now in 2024. And looking at current.
In October 2015, the BCA adjusted the value from a building lot to a wood lot. And I don't think a wood lot exists as a property classification anymore.
It does not.
But that was the result of the BCA, October 7th, 2015. It's included in your packet. If you want to read that. Alan, you were here.
I don't remember.
Nancy, you were here.
Yeah.
I was here as a listener.
I have over the years found a few of those and amended them to miscellaneous.
That explains it.
Yeah, well, the result of the decisions there, I don't think we classify undeveloped land as woodlots anymore. Maybe in the Northeast Kingdom, but not here, but.
I think, and yeah, so I think, the standard that we have right now is that every single parcel has gotten a house site value of two acres.
Unless it's
Unless it's.
proven otherwise.
Okay, exactly, but from the reappraisal, the assumption was that there was a house site value on every parcel, whether it was raw land or not.
Correct.
Which was
And
different,
an unadjusted,
which was
house.
different, yeah, which was different from the last,
the prior
prior
appraisal.
reappraisal, so.
Correct.
Okay.
And this property suffers from the same conditions as Bowen's. That it's a long skinny lot with, that drops down to the river.
Yeah, and it has a 25% reduction for that.
Right.
How much?
20, that's the 25% land reduction of excess land.
And that's already figured in.
That is figured in, yes. At grievance, that was added.
And there was, but prior to that, there's a influence for the right of way.
Yeah.
The fact that it's
That,
not.
and that didn't change.
Can you explain that to me? I didn't understand that.
The right of way?
Yeah.
And, is it because it requires a right of way or there's?
It's, when you, in this particular road, when you drive down the road, you have the road bed, if you're looking at the tax map. And then it devolves into just a pathway, really, so, your typical house in Putney sits on the road, that's typical. Right of way isn't typical, so you recognize that fact, and if it's a shared driveway or right of way, we typically take off 5%. Well, you know, that's a starting point. It could be if the house is, you know, it has rough access, it's way in the woods, it could, you know, we could discount it 10% or 25%, but just a typical right of way, shared driveway, 5%.
Is there any accommodation for how, yeah,
Start again, please.
yeah, is there any accommodation for how long that right of way is? A differentiation between that. This is quite a long right of way.
Yeah, we drove down there, but when I drove down there, you know, 164 Great Meadows is right, you know, right across from your right of way, so. I guess it'll be up to the board to make that determination if they want to accelerate the discount. But
Currently it's 5%.
Yes.
and it's broadland 5%.
Do we have a wild guess at how long this right of way is?
Well, when I say the right of way, I say Great Meadows Ridge. The road, if you look at the tax map, at some point it ends. And then you drive down there, but to me, when I was driving down there, okay, it's a gravel road, it's actually kind of wide, it's not, you know, tiny, so I was like, okay, so it's a right of way, it's an improved, and you know, could easily go up and back,
So it's already improved, so.
and you know, when the board, you know, descends down the road, you'll see.
Yeah, so we have this map here, and I'm having trouble, I don't know how to draw this.
Okay, so here's Great Meadow Ridge is up here,
Okay,
and it comes down here, at some point. It may be right here, I think when I came into. You have the house with a great view, I think it's 134, at 134. Then the road starts to descend,
okay,
and it's at that point, it almost looks like you can see the vestiges of where a plow turns around when
Ah.
so at that point, just, you know, we cut it there, everything else, all those lots down there. You
Is
get a
it-
5% discount
Is
right
it, so
away.
it's not town maintained? Actually,
I don't know about that.
It's not.
the whole thing or
So
just?
Great Meadows Ridge, you go to the end.
Yeah.
Where Brian and Joyce Morgan used to live, and there's a turnaround. It's almost a circle, and then the driveway goes down, the driveway to Hageman's, and then this is the next one.
Okay.
Past Hageman.
Yeah, so it's not too far beyond the turnaround.
All right,
Anything else?
No, just if you take a look at it, I think, you know, you might see what I'm talking about in terms of the built where you could actually build a house if you wanted to. But I'm hearing from Jordy and the listers that you're already saying, okay, 2 acres goes at a certain price regardless. That's what I think I'm hearing today.
Yes, that is correct. Listers present your evaluation.
So we have, here. Land only ones. Well, one with the house, but the house off it. So the subject property, 12 acres for $170,000 with the right of way and the rear acreage, 0 West Street, which is a little larger. 16.75 acres, 172,300 with the same right of way and rear acreage, reduction. In 2022, that sold for $180,000. And our subject property is $170,700. 164 Great Meadows, which is what, right across the road. If we take the house off it, it's 12.1 acres, so virtually the same size, assessed at $179,700, so $2,000 more, and it has a right-of-way adjustment. The rear acres are not influenced. And then 2 land-only parcels on Great Meadows Ridge, 10 acres, 174,000, no reductions. And another 10.5 acres, 182,500, no reductions. So the range of 10.1 to 16.75 acres, 172,300 to 182,500. Median 176,900, and the subject property is 170,700. So it's sort of right in the middle. And I also have here his comps, and I'll give this to JJ.
Yeah, I would just say, just take a good close look at it. I just have the last name, DOHL. I don't have the parcel number, but it's the $174,000 one, Jordy. I'd take a look at that, literally see that physically as opposed to this lot. And for it to only have a $4,000 difference seems really out of line.
Okay, thank you.
It is 2 acres less. So.
Okay, any other questions on the board?
I did have one question, when you mentioned the property, one of the properties up from this land that had a view. And I wondered if the trees, and that it was partially blocked now.
Yep.
And I wondered if the trees were on that person's property or on a different property that they couldn't control.
No, it's on that property. In fact, for a while, this goes way back. We're talking even before 10 years ago. I was trying to see if I could get a view. And at that time, the owner, I don't know who they were, had cut out their view. And so it's on their land.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we ready for an inspection committee?
This one's it's just up the road from Bowen. I don't know.
Well, maybe it should be the same.
And then the other question is, Mr. Schroll, when are you coming back to the US?
I'll be back on the evening of the 16th. So send anytime after that's fine, John.
Okay, so in the next 30 days, we can do
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
inspection, because you have to be there for that.
Sure.
Oh,
And I don't know if we want the same inspection committee or different inspection committees. This one's right, this is just right up the road from Bowen.
I guess we need two inspection committees, actually.
yeah. So, so did we say that it was gonna be, maybe, I mean, maybe, well,
The
the
next thing,
people that are going to Bowen's, are the people going to Bowen's?
Wendy, Nancy, and Peg.
Okay, and then,
And you don't need an appointment for that, because it's just open land, you can just go look at it.
and that's the
That's
Abenaki Ridge?
great, that's Great Meadow Ridge.
That's Great Meadows Ridge.
Right.
Okay, then we need somebody for Abenaki Ridge.
So I know.
So that's Abby, I'll take it, and I'm gonna do it,
So Abby, Amelia,
and Eileen. And that's gonna be the Abenaki one. All right. Good, well, thank you, Mr. Shaw.
No, thank you for, I heard you aren't getting paid for this. I appreciate what our town does.
Well, thank you.
I'm on the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Safe travels.
Thanks. Have a good evening. Take care now.
You too, bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
So Nancy, there's two kind of thoughts about it that I'm thinking we should do with deliberative session.
Yes, I believe that's true.
Okay.
And so that would be.
I'm sorry.
We're going to go into deliberative session.
So let's,
So we have to wait for the.
So we're gonna do parodies still?
We're gonna go into deliberative session. We're gonna turn on
What about parodies, Nancy, what about parodies? Do we wanna,
Well, we're.
is that
To
delivered?
be, no, it's, to be decided here,
Okay.
second.
so Rachel's gonna shut everything down. We're gonna excuse the listeners.
What about parodies?
Oh,
Yeah, we do, yeah, we do.
That's right, that's the one we asked for, clarification on current.
right. And did I forward that email to you?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so we,
Oh, yeah.
don't shut it down yet.
Don't shut it down yet, but you can just move it there. Because they're not participating.
They're not, yeah,
We just need to hear from the listeners.
hey, listen.
So we can,
Thank you, Rachel.
sure, and I have to copy this one,
So, yeah,
because I have a comment at the bottom.
I never saw that.
Yeah,
I still feel like this is third one.
Yeah,
yeah, I think I figured out,
Oh, good for you.
and I'll read it in a minute.
Yep.
Um.
I wasn't at, the second set of presentations. Was this a part of that?
No.
There, never
This-
been any.
This is brand
This
new.
is part of us.
This is kind of a continuation.
It's
I think-
brand new.
Yes, the second part
We
is.
started and then we didn't know enough to
Right.
do anything,
We did,
right?
yeah, we weren't.
We
We
were
asked
gonna
for-
do it and then we go, we don't know what
We
they're
asked
asking for,
for
so we.
clarification. And so the clarification came as an addendum to the additional information.
So I will introduce the property.
Okay, yes.
So this is, 189 Putney Mountain Road, Norman Paradis and Christine Coterier, 060136. And it's 162.9 acre parcel, so residential.
Say that, slow down a minute. We're getting tired here. so-
Yeah, me too. 162.9 acres.
Thank you.
Has a cape, a 2014 cape. Wood shingles. 2,618 square feet,
26.
2618.
18.
So one living unit, 2 baths, 2.5 baths, 7 rooms, 4 bedrooms. Value 728,700.
Okay.
This land has the a conservation easement on it that allows for, and it's specified where the 2-acre building parcel was, allows for 2 living units, and there is a house with a barn with an apartment in it. So there are 2 living units on the 2 acres. The 2 acres are valued at as typical because they are developed. The remainder of the land is has a Vermont Land Trust conservation easement and has a 90% reduction. Consistent with the other Vermont Land Trust easement properties in town. Very restrictive. You can do trails and some wood cutting. No structures, no sugar house, no hunting camp.
So you only assessed it for one house site and not 2, is that?
So one house site, the 2 acres is one house site, and across town in this new. In this reval that we've done. There is one house site per property. Unless it is something like Red Clover or Small Meadows where there are a lot of unlanded houses, even if you have a house here and another house over here. And having gone through grievance, I think that's probably a good thing. Because if we had another $152,000 on some sites, we would have heard from more people, but. So one house site per property. He is arguing, I think, he said that development easement should cause his research says a downward adjustment of 25 to 60%.
Of the entire thing?
Of the entire property. The 90% downward adjustment is a 38. If I took away the sheet that JJ just gave you, if you look at example 3, there's a land value. So total values number 3.
Yeah.
If you take either 1 or 2 as a percentage of number 3, it's a 38% reduction, 37.5% reduction or something. So
And that's without the current use valuation.
and current use is, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, current use has nothing to do with land assessment value.
No.
That's a state thing. So
Right,
if we removed the Vermont Land Trust easement and said his
Okay.
property is typical,
All right,
it would be a $1.16 million property.
I gotcha.
If you reduce that by 38%, you get $727,000, which is where we are.
Yeah, okay.
So,
But they are really both the total value of the
Yes.
property, which before the current use valuation happens, which they're not allowed to grieve anyway. But then they're also grieving
the allocation.
the allocation.
Okay, so
So
this sheet gives you allocations.
Yeah.
And the first one I have some software issues that I can't figure out because I did the allocation and then I transferred it and it didn't change. I think the number two recalc is what it should be. It's not very different. It's a little different. And if I can get the computer to do that and I'm so instructed, I
Oh,
will
I see.
change it to that. And I have a number in there that I can't figure out.
Acre house site value, which is excluded at the full value.
The 2 acres is excluded.
And then you're taking the extra 2 acres and applying the VLTE.
Yeah.
Equally to come up with 152,800 acre excluded land value.
Yes, and the issue was the first time I took the easement acres from the VT5 property tax viewer,
Yeah,
which gave me a GIS number. And then in this process, I found the easement, and the easement document gives the whole property. So we take the 2 acres of house site out, which he has developed, and well, it's a typical house site, and then the other 2 acres excluded got the easement.
so when we deliberate on this, we're going to come up with 2 different decisions. One exclusively on the excluded land and one on the total value.
Are you proposing that as a question?
No, that's what this document indicates.
Table doesn't understand.
Okay, so they're, okay.
You're on.
I'll try to explain this, so it's less than clear. Okay, so, normally, if you're not in current use, you come here and you grieve the property of your value, right? And that's the only thing that you're doing because you're not in current use, right? So if you enroll your land in current use, you have an opportunity to take, or usually you have to at least take 2 acres out of the current use. And also your building and any of your outbuildings are also excluded from current use. So those values are, valued as a separate parcel, as if they were a standalone parcel. Come up with a value to come up with your current use value, which is a different value than your real value. So that number gets plugged into the grand list and that becomes your taxable value. So the excluded land and the house site and the buildings are basically taxed at full value, and then, the excluded land, the enrolled land is, assessed at a value that's set by the state, in this case,
$188 an acre for the forest and 463 or something for the couple acres of ag he has.
So
And
it's a
yeah.
significantly reduced assessment that they pay taxes on. But the only thing that you can grieve is the value of the excluded land.
And then the state reimburses the town for how much was?
For the state reimburses the town for the lost revenue, and it's called hold harmless payment for municipal tax, and the school tax lost is spread around everybody in the state. So homeowners in downtown Burlington are helping with our school tax.
So I was just explaining that it's two separate grievances. You can grieve both, but they're separate grievances. And they're separate processes, separate.
So tell me again what the 2 grievances are.
So one is the total value of the property, the real value of the property.
The real value.
That's before you take into account.
Current use.
Right.
Which you just said is 1 million something.
No, that was for comparison.
Okay.
If there wasn't if there wasn't a land trust easement, which is separate from current use, then it would be totaled at that amount of money.
So we're back to, there are 2 separate grievances.
Yes.
One is the total value of the property, what's the
Yes.
other one?
The other one is the current
Current use allocation.
current use allocation, which is, grieving
And,
the.
and the reason I gave you that,
land.
that's the decision form.
Yeah.
That has a sheet for calculating current use decisions.
That's that.
And that's not, but what's being grieved there is the amount of land,
It's
not.
the
No,
value of
it's
the-
how it's divvied up.
Yeah,
He's saying you gave me saying the part that's not in current use, you valued it too highly.
Okay.
And he goes at length in here on how to do it, which is how we do it and how we did it. And I would say as a lister, and Eileen will back me up, that the numbers we use in the allocation come directly from the assessment, and we can't use numbers in our allocation that we haven't already determined. So I can't say, oh, well, the house site for current use is worth less than it is in the
Yeah,
assessment. So
the only difference is it's valued as a standalone
Yes.
parcel, that's all.
So, yeah, so you have
Which
hundred and
comes up with
sixty
a-
acres and he holds out 4, and we say, if this was a 4-acre parcel.
Which
with
would-
2 acres restricted, what would it be worth?
Right,
And
so which
that's
would be a
example
different,
2 on
possibly a different value than, say, 6 acres and a house. Because if you're just looking at the 4 acres as though there was nothing else around.
And it's complicated at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, at 7 o'clock in the evening. It's very complicated. So it's not your imagination.
These are two different, when we get to this point, it's gonna be 2 different decisions, so we should separate them out when we get there. In deliberation, that's all I wanted to say.
Am I correct that this, we should treat this just as if we would if he were here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That this is the submitted evidence.
But he
Yeah, he wrote a
presented
lot,
his,
he wrote
he
a,
presented his case on paper.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So we are ready for an inspection committee.
So I think unless anybody has more questions, do you want our
Oh,
our comps?
your comments, right? Thank you.
Can we please?
Well,
It is getting late, I have his comps, which are interesting.
yeah, well, we can.
So his comps has the 208 Westminster Road, which is in fact 16 South Windmill Hill. But our comps, so he's 189. So would we, I can give you the building assessments, I can give you the square foot for the property.
I like square foot per property.
Okay. So 189 Putney Mountain Road, which is him. $278 assessed value per square foot. 89 Hog Farm Road. Which is quite a bit smaller, 30 acres. Oh, okay, 339 per square foot. 38 Gray Lane, which is less than 10 acres, 258 a square foot. 73 Fred Houghton. You must have been doing this for buildings. Yeah, because these numbers the acreages are interesting. 266 a square foot, the buildings. Well, you'll have this, and 134 Leon Wood, 325 a square foot, and that's 66 acres. So his property is quite a bit larger. But it also has a pretty stringent easement on it.
And the 73 Fred Houghton Road was what acreage?
10. You'll have this. Building assessments. Range, so his is sort of in the middle in size, range from 480-900 to 520 with his kind of in the middle. I'll give you this. If I read you numbers now, it doesn't do any good for anybody. And his has his comparables as well, and I did make a note that that's not 208 Westminster. So, and now.
I'm not sure any of those are comments.
Well,
I know 16 South Windmill Hills, it's across the street from my house, and I've been to Northern Christie's, and they're not at all.
Yeah, several of his comps, 448 West Hill was a pretty meager house when it was built in 1970. Norm's is a well-built, well-sited 41 Aiken Road,
What's their view factor?
Norm and Christine. I don't think they have with you. It's because they need to clear it.
clearing anything there. Not this room, but kind of much like that.
Yeah, no,
Because they're on the line, on the same altitude as Fitzpatrick.
yeah, they,
I mean,
They-
there's a road that goes from their house to Fitzpatrick's. I mean, really.
Fitzgerald, yeah, they-
Fitzgerald.
yeah. And they bought property from the one that he was telling me I need to drive up to from down the side of them. But it is sort of out in the woods. It's a beautiful site, but it doesn't have.
So now are we ready for?
So I can give you this, and again, if there are information you need, let me know. I can provide anything we've got.
Okay. I am accusing myself from this one.
Understood. I kind of agree with this,
I have to go sleep.
I know you're doing so many, I mean, maybe we can switch. I mean, the last time we were here with them, we went to Vermont Supreme Court.
So Eileen, are you on that?
And I'll go with you.
Okay. All right, so Eileen, JJ, you want to? Okay, sure. Okay, all right.
You're out of here.
You guys are out of here. And now we can turn off the television.
Can I ask one question before you leave?
Yes.
When you give, prices first, where, you're including the full cost of the land. I find it more useful if we could just, go ahead, answer my question.
Assessed value divided by gross living area above grade equals price per square foot.
Right, but it's not a useful figure.